defendants might not have been truthful, and how that plays out into the criminal case.
Tim, counselor,
I'm probably going to be in trouble, but
why Fonnie Willis and the
this is an important day, and so I'm going to
who were not charged ultimately,
try and share as much
wouldn't it be
information
interesting to know
as I
why
can.
she decided it wasn't worth
Good
bringing
morning,
bringing the charges if the special
Good
grand jury had recommended
to
it?
You. Good morning
it would be interesting, but that won't be in the report, right? Look, in any large-scale criminal investigation involving a conspiracy, the decision as to who to charge isn't
This
who's
is the
involved.
way
It's practically
we start
what
our
is
new
the shape of the
day.
case sort of most makes sense
A little
to
early.
portray to the jury. There are practical considerations
Good
about
morning,
numbers of
Easily.
defendants. She's already sort of stretching the
And
outer edge
Matt
of that
and
by
Ted.
charging
Hi,
the 19 people that she did.
Badger.
That doesn't mean that the
I was like,
conspiracy is
do I
limited to
go?
those
Do I go live
19.
early? Do I go
There's
live early?
discretion, prosecutorial discretion.
I got to run down though, and
So look, as
I
Michael
actually
said,
did
there may be
order
some things in there that
breakfast
bear upon
because I don't
credibility,
have
and
any
there may
food
be
in the house.
evidence that gives both the
One of those
defense and the
items.
world a
Anyway,
better
I'm gonna
sense
shut up.
of what the evidence will be when this case is tried. But we will not get, no question, we will not get in the report a window into the exercise of her discretion.
Tim, every attorney we've spoken to over the last several hours, particularly defense attorneys, in a way, they're salivating over this. They feel like getting this special grand jury report might give them helpful information to stage their defenses in Georgia. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a roadmap of the evidence that informed the DA's decision to bring her case. You don't often get that. You get discovery from the government, but a report with conclusions and findings by a grand jury is kind of an unusual preview of sorts.
Hey, Michael, how are you? Good morning,
Practical
TGI.
information about who might be
TGI
showing up on a witness
grand jury
stand, but
report
also
release
sort of
day.
the theory of the case. So it is significant. And as Michael said, unusual.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for like
preview.
restreaming this,
Michael,
but I'm
what
trying
and how
not.
much
I just
will we
need, this is
learn
very
about
important
possible
information.
Cooperators and people who may have been granted immunity as part of this
I could try and
process.
find like a live, probably
Well,
that's not
you'll have a
this
chance
one.
to really just line up side by side those people who ended up in the original indictment and those people who were discussed in front of the special purpose grand jury. So if in the final indictment you see 19, and then in the discussions with the special purpose grand jury you see recommendations for 25, you're going to wonder about those other 6 people. And it won't take a rocket scientist to sort of ferret through who those people may be. And so the defense bar will be digging into that. They'll be digging into background. They'll be figuring out who said what, who may have a deal. Nothing stops them from going to, once they determine who those individuals may be, or if they're named, going straight to them and saying, hey, what we want to talk to you about the case. And you'll find out pretty quick if they clam up or send you to their lawyer, what their intentions may be.
He does, doesn't he? Oh my gosh. It's like music.
Again, this is not
accents are like music
case
to my
Georgia,
ears
especially
anyway.
in a Superior Court case. We do not have investigative grand jury
It's
powers
beautiful.
For a regular criminal grand jury. So
I have another site pulled up in case we get taken down. So if we get taken down, we'll come back. It'll just take a minute.
That they intend to use this fully to their advantage.
Okay, so Tim, take that a little further. What's the first thing you do? This report comes out literally, I keep checking my computer, minutes from now. We expected it at 10. It could happen at any time. It drops. You do what with it if you are a defense attorney?
Yeah, look, it's meat on the bones. The bones here have been evident to everyone, to the world, for months. That the core story that the committee on which I worked told, that's been amply reported, is there. This is, though, additional detail. This is specific manifestations of the multi-part plan to disrupt the joint session. Who was contacted, who did what. So there will be detail in there that the defense lawyers will want to mine for investigative leads to help shape their potential response. But to be clear, I don't believe there's going to be any bombshell here. There's no more bombshell or other shoe left to drop. Again, the core story here of intentional disruption, an attempt to circumvent the peaceful transfer of power, has been clear for a long time.
Michael, how quickly could we see something in this special grand jury report in a courtroom?
I think there are still some shoes left
of the
to drop.
Various hearings that are taking place now and will take place in terms of removal or the severance or things like that.
You may hear something as early as next week. You know, the trial judge in Fulton County has basically said he's going to hold motion hearings every week especially given that he's under the gun and the state is under the gun to present their prosecution of Mr. Cheesebro and Ms. Powell by the end of October. And so he sort of set out this informal schedule to regularly have motion hearings. There is a motion pending from the two of the defendants right now as it relates to the releasing this report. So I think, you may hear something about it. I think if there's information in it that tends to be
Exactly,
prejudicial or in
Michael.
some
That's what I
way,
think too. It'll give us some more specifics.
unfairly
Your boots.
frame a particular defendant, you may hear a motion from them as well that will be filed. I don't think that'll be heard next week. And again, this very well may become a motion on whether or not the case should stand. I think you'll likely see some motions to dismiss the criminal indictment because of some irregularity that the defense claims happened before.
Yes, I would like
So
to
it's
know
coming.
the
It's just a matter
level
is it
of
next
fucked
week or a
that
couple of
we're
weeks down the
looking
road.
at. Like
All right,
how
Michael Moore, Tim Havey,
high?
stand by if
How high
you
is
will. Again,
high?
we're waiting for this report to come out at any
Just how
moment.
effed
So,
are they?
All right. Scathing response from
I love her
County
so
District
much.
Attorney
She
Fani
once
Willis
responded
after
to a
House
tweet that I
Judiciary
tweeted at
Chair
her. She's
Jim Jordan
amazing.
demanded information about her investigation into election interference in her state of Georgia. Willis wrote to Jordan saying in part that his probe's obvious purpose to obstruct a Georgia criminal proceeding and to advance
Yeah, we're entering the
outrageous
land of
partisan
motions, right?
misrepresentations. That is her message. That comes after the congressman wrote to Willis telling her, you did not bring charges until 2.5 years later. At a
I
time
love
when
that
the
really
campaign
all
for
of
the
their
Republican
arguments are
presidential
the
nomination
most
was in full
intellectually
swing.
bankrupt
CNN's chief
arguments on the
congressional
planet,
correspondent Manu
and that
Raju
is
is
all they
joining
can
us
come up
now.
with.
Manu,
It
Fani at
really
this
is
point
so
has
very
dismissed the
telling.
request
It's like
to
the age
send
of
documents.
stupid.
What does that do to the House Judiciary Committee, and what is its power in all this?
Well, it's unclear exactly what the Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan will do in response to this blistering letter from Fani Willis, and the committee at the moment declining to comment about her response. Unclear whether or not Jordan will take steps to try to subpoena Fani Willis or subpoena documents. That certainly is something that under their purview they could do. We'll see. The House returns back into session next week. That'll be one of the issues that they will be dealing with in the weeks going forward. But Fani Willis made clear in her view that what Jordan was doing, she said, was unconstitutional. She said that it would step on states' rights. She said that they had no business, in Fani Willis's view, of obstructing an ongoing criminal investigation. She said Donald Trump, just because he's a political candidate, is not above the law. And she rejected the contention that because these charges were brought in the midst of the election season, that was the intent, saying that this was a long investigation and the charges were brought because of the fact that the investigation had concluded. She went on to say this in her very blistering response to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman. She said, your job description as a legislator does not include criminal law enforcement, nor does it include supervising a specific
40 million seems to be the
trial,
number to
because
really
you
have
believe
people
that
up.
doing
Yeah,
so will
right.
promote your partisan political objectives. Now, Fani Willis is the
Oh
Judiciary
man,
Committee is trying to figure out whether or
Canada
not
is
she
facing
in any
such a
way
battle. I'm
coordinated
so sorry,
with the
Badger.
Justice Department.
You guys are
Jack
like the
Smith's office,
silent.
of course, who has brought separate
It's
charges
like
and the separate cases on the federal level.
I feel like it
against the
just
former
crept up
president.
on you,
She went on to
right?
say
Like
that their
maybe
office
it
did
didn't.
receive
I don't
about
know
$12
Canadian
million
politics,
in
but
federal grants, but saying that those are for other issues such as fighting crime on the streets. dealing
Badger,
with
have you heard
sexual assault,
anything relevant
people,
about any
going
kind
after
of
people who are accused of
action
sexual
against the
assault and the
government
like, and
on September
warning them not to try
19th?
to get
Because
rid
one of
of
the
those federal
streamers
funds. But as
from
you can see
Canada,
here,
Queenie, has
this
been
fight
spouting
between the two
very
sides intensifying.
loudly
We'll see if
that
the Judiciary Committee
they're
Chairman
going to have an
decides to
uprising
push
or
back or
something
decides to
on
move on.
September
Yeah, and her
19th,
letter is
and
very
you
clear. I
just
mean,
wait
she
and
is
see
slapping
kind of
him with
thing.
some
So she's
cases
been
that went to
reported and all
Supreme
that stuff.
Court saying that
I don't,
basically,
I haven't listened to her
congressional
that
power
much, but
is not
she did
unchecked,
mention
that
that
there has
date.
to be
So
some
I
checks
just
and
wondered if
balances.
you as a
This will be
Canadian
interesting
had
to
heard
watch
anything
as
about
these
that.
cases go forward.
Murmur.
Manu Raju, thank you so much for everything. John? Or Kate? Kate?
Coming up for us, Donald Trump pitching in and trying to raise money for Rudy Giuliani and the mounting legal bills that he is facing. We have new details. We have new details on that. We are also just hearing the control room telling me in my ear right now that the full report, an unredacted report from the special grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, has just been released. Let me get over to CNN's Paula Reed. The control room is telling me, as I'm standing here, Paula, that has just come out. What are you learning?
I haven't actually seen it yet, Kate, but I want to talk a little bit about why we're able to view this report today and potentially see any difference between what the special grand jury recommended and what the district attorney Fonnie Willis
Let me see
actually
if
did.
there is.
Now,
Yeah,
it
we
is
can get
not
that.
a usual course of action for special grand
Let
jury
me see if I
reports
can
to be
find
released to the
another
public,
one just in
but
case we
after
lose
the
this.
indictment, CNN and other media outlets renewed their push to release this to the public. And the judge concluded in one of his orders, he said, look, now that the indictment is out, he didn't see any need for this to continue to be redacted. So now that we have this, we're going to be poring over it. Specifically, we're looking at any place where the district attorney deviated from what was recommended by the special grand jury. Now, Kate, the special grand jury was used for about 7 months to investigate this. They heard from dozens and dozens of witnesses in this case, but their recommendations were not binding on the district attorney. And before moving on to a regular grand jury for an indictment, the district attorney needed to make an assessment of whether the recommendations that were made by the special grand jury were supported by enough evidence to successfully convict someone in court. So that's really what we're looking for today. Were there any recommendations, particularly of anyone high profile or notable, that the district attorney opted not to follow through with? So that's the number one thing we're going to be looking for as we pour through this. But again, a historic moment, being able to see this grand jury report, not something usually available to the public.
Absolutely. All right, Paula, stand by. You're going to get your hands on the report. I think, Evan, let me get over to Evan Perez. I think while you've been talking, Evan's been able to start going through this. Evan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, look, I mean, there are a number of recommendations. Some of them line up exactly with what the district attorney and her team ended up deciding that they had enough evidence to be able to bring. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting is there is a section 7 of the report where they mention, they say, with respect to the national effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election, focus on efforts in Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia. The grand jury recommends that the DA seek indictments of the following persons. And one of the names that stands out immediately here, obviously beyond Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, people who are, and the former president Donald Trump. We also see the name number 11 listed here, Lindsey Graham, who is a sitting senator, who is still the senator, obviously from South Carolina, who was very much involved in some of the efforts to talk to Georgia officials, trying to find ways for them to say that there was fraud in the election. One of the things that right off the bat that the grand jury finds, one of their initial findings, is that there was no widespread fraud in the state of Georgia in the 2020 elections. So one of the names, again, sticking out here in one of these, in one of the recommendations, again, this is under section 7 of the report, page 6. You see the list of names: Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, all of them charged. Donald Trump, Cleta Mitchell, a former a lawyer who was involved with the former president. She is on this list. Jenna Ellis, of course, she has already been charged. Mark Meadows, also who has been charged. David Schaefer has been charged. Ray Smith, Lynn Wood, someone who was not charged in the end. Lindsey Graham and Sidney Powell. They list a total of 30 people who they believe should have been charged. This is the special purpose grand jury that they believe should have been charged as part of the national scheme by the former president and some of his allies to overturn the election results. Again, what the grand jury was saying
Okay, my
is that
breakfast
this
came.
was
Hi,
beyond just the state
Jen.
of Georgia. This was
His
an
son
effort
had the
that
big
went
job.
to all these other
Good
states, including
morning.
Arizona,
Hi,
Wisconsin,
Jen.
Michigan, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia.
I don't think people
According
of Ottawa will
to
put
the
up with that
special
again. I don't know what
purpose
happens.
grand
Yeah.
jury. We're still going through this
Yes,
document. And
Jen.
again, one of the first initial things
That's
that
what I
sticks
want to
out
see.
is some of the names that you see here. They listed 30 names to be charged here. We only know of 19, of course, that have been charged, and we have to read through to see
Grassley, that's
why
a
they
good
made
one.
that decision. What's the purpose of what
I
they
mean,
believe
Scott
were those
Perry.
findings.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
There's
I'm
a
going to give
bunch
you
of
time to
names I
continue
could
reading through this.
imagine.
I'm looking through this as well. But
There's
as
names I want.
importantly, one of the big questions has been,
Names I
is the
imagine.
number in this full report different than the number of people that Fani Willis eventually indicted? And the answer is yes, John. They recommend 30 names here to face charges. We know that is 11 more than the 19 that Fani Willis is
That's
now
just
seeking,
one more
seeking,
than I
to
need.
prosecute.
11, and 3 of them were U.S.
G for
senators. One is a
greed.
sitting U.S. senator. That is Senator Lindsey Graham of South
Oh,
Carolina.
I love you
The
guys.
special grand jury report also recommended charges against then Georgia Senators Kelly Loeffler and then Georgia Senator David Perdue. Michael Moore, attorney, is back with us right now. Michael, again, we all need to read much more closely what went into this report. Why specifically they thought they should bring charges against Lindsey Graham. We know Lindsey Graham did make a phone call to Georgia, David Perdue, and Kelly Loeffler. But until we know firmly why they wanted to charge, let me ask you the difficulty in bringing charges for something like this against a sitting U.S. Senator and 2 former U.S. Senators. Why would that be hard? What might make Fani Willis not want to bring those charges?
I mean, this is like a,
Well,
when those hot
one thing
dogs
that's
hit
in the
a
report
a
that you'll have to
person's face
look at a little
in
more
the
closely
GIF.
deals with
This
the
is like
number of
that
people who
when it's
voted
like
to
hot
charge
dogs hitting your
versus
face.
voted to not charge or
Personal
abstain
confession: I was
from a
around
particular
10 when
charge.
the
And I noticed that there are
checkers
some
installed
individuals
Pinochet.
who were not
Oh,
in the 19 who had a number of
Roger.
votes against them. One of those was Lindsey Graham. His
So
was
much.
not a unanimous vote by the special purpose grand jury to include him in the indictment. So you have to deal with things like the speech and debate clause. You remember that Lindsey Graham and other lawmakers challenged subpoenas. They went to federal court about that. There are certain issues that were surrounding whether or not the state could get information. And it may simply be that the DA looked at it and said, look, we are not at a place where we've even been able to convince all of our special purpose grand jurors that we need to bring this indictment. We think that it may it may become more of a political case than necessarily a criminal case if we try to overreach into the every sitting Republican federal official in the Senate in the state of Georgia. And so we're not going to do that. There could be a number of reasons that decision was made. I think probably as much as anything else, it dealt with access to information, what they could get as this special purpose grand jury went forward, and whether or not those individuals contributed specifically to the narrative of the efforts to overturn the election that went on from the day after the vote through January, whether or not those specific individuals were tied in some way and they had evidence about them that they could present to a trial jury. We don't know that. This is
Exactly,
not a transcript,
Badger.
by the way, for the viewers.
Those are
This
the
is not
things
something
that
that we're getting to read every word.
I don't know. I kind of feel like we're going to come up on a period of history right now where we do face some very evil things. I don't know, Michael. That's a really good question. That's a very good question. I don't know.
From those conclusions.
Yeah, I'm just thumbing through it right now, and that's exactly right. In terms of the actual details, what jumps out are the names, not necessarily
Perdue,
Perdue
and Loeffler.
What those actions were. To what extent does this indicate that Fani Willis wanted a somewhat narrow case? And I asked that. She brought charges against 19 people. That's a lot.
But still, it was.
Yeah,
30,
and it's not
oh
against
my
the U.S. senators.
God.
Does this indicate that she did want to keep it narrow where appropriate?
Thank God this is public. Can I say? Can I just say? Do you think this would have? Well, first of all, we wouldn't be here if he was president.
Once you use the word RICO, you've basically woven one of the biggest fishing nets you can weave, and you're just trying to catch as many fish as you can catch. And that's why RICO is such a powerful tool for prosecutors, because it allows them to basically dirty up everybody else with the other people's conduct. And so I don't see that the 19 would make me think she's tried to narrow the case. I really think at the end of the day, she probably looked at it, making some decisions about, is this going to be even more labeled a case of politics, or is it going to be labeled a case of actually some criminal conduct? And it would have, had she included the 2 highest ranking federal officials in the state at the time in the indictment, at some point, sort of the stench of politics can come over the entire criminal case. Certainly, that's some of what the defense is trying to do now. But it would have added to that had she included 2 senators that she may not have had enough information about. And so, you recall the call that Lindsey Graham made to the secretary as he tried to talk about, can you do something with the votes, and where are the votes, and his explanations have maybe answered some of that question and what he was calling about, how he was calling for the Senate and everything. But that to me, that's a case she just had to use her own discretion on. I don't know what information she may have had available to her on Perdue and Loeffler. And again, without seeing sort of we're not seeing the engine of what went on in the special purpose grand jury. We're just able to see the exterior of the car. So we don't know kind of what made it run. We're not able to see the specific allegations, statements, comments, testimony of these witnesses. We're just able to see sort of the finished product and looking at it, and then we know which part she decided she was going to take. So that's kind of what we know at this point.
And again, just to be clear, as we are looking through this and reading it, it now is becoming clear they recommended charges against 39.
Okay, this thing is only 28
which
pages.
would be 20 more
So
than they ultimately did
I
bring
put the
charges
link to
against.
the
Let me more
document in
please
there. And if
stand
we get
by. We're
cut
gonna continue to
off,
read
I'm
through
going to go
this. In
back
the
and we
meantime,
can
we'll
just
go to
go through the document. So just in
This
case.
is pretty incredible when you look at some of the names on here. We're talking about two former senators, former Senator David Perdue of Georgia, former U.S. Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia, and a sitting U.S. Senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Let me go now to Manu Raju. When you look at these names, now look, they are not charged. Fani Willis did not decide to go forward in charging them, but a grand jury said that they should be, in their mind, charged. What is this going to do politically? Like, what is happening on the Hill right now?
Yeah, well, look, Senator Lindsey Graham is gone, as other senators are. They're not in session today, but this is all focused around that conversation that Lindsey Graham had with Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State.
I thought I'd go live early.
Election. I recall that Raffensperger had said that he felt
because I wanted to go over the grand jury report
by that phone call and by Trump allies
to
essentially try to get rid of votes and try to help Donald Trump win the election. Now,
Hi, Siegfried. Hello. How are
actually had a conversation with
you?
Lindsey Graham about all of
federal
this,
charges.
He denied that he tried to pressure or strong arm Brad Raffensperger anyway. He simply said he was trying to ask about the mail-in voting system in Georgia, the signature verification system. And he said his focus was not about discarding legally valid ballots.
What does he have to do with that? Nothing.
Election. He said he was trying to get some more attention about the Senate races that were upcoming in January. Recall those two runoffs that ultimately determined control of the Senate after Republicans lost those two seats. He said that was his focus on that, and he denied all that the implication that he was trying to force Brad Raffensperger to do something illegal. Listen.
What I'm very concerned about is that if you're going to continue to vote by mail, that we need to know what systems work and what don't. It's up to the people of Georgia. But I think I have every right in the world to reach out and say, how does it work? And that's what I did.
It's just really it is kind of a poetic justice. And not a mistake, really, because there are so many wonderful women in positions like that, and it's growing by the day. American women, that's a huge step forward.
Yeah, that's what the whole thing was about. I mean, they've got a process. You can't change the law.
This guy's unbelievable.
So there's just no way to do that. Whatever system was in place for the presidential election, we're going to live with. The whole conversation was about the Senate race.
Now, ultimately, Lindsey Graham did testify before the grand jury in Georgia after he tried to fight a subpoena, did not want to come and testify. He did. It's unclear exactly what he said to that grand jury, if it differs from that explanation in any way. I did talk to him after that testimony. He would not really comment about what he said to the grand jury, other than that they said he cooperated and he wasn't expected to be charged in any way. Now, on the David Perdue situation, the former senator who recommended, there were charges recommended against him, along with Kelly Loeffler, he did urge Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, to
I do wonder
to look into the 2020.
I do wonder how he sleeps at night, only because he did stand up on the floor and say, "That's it, I'm out, I'm done." You know, so I really do wonder.
January 2020, that was a meeting that was after the 2020.
There just seems to be some human qualities.
Yeah,
my mind's on Jim Jordan too.
Recommendation that
yeah,
these individuals be charged here, but that was
know who you
one
meant.
effort as well. But as you can see from that conversation, Sarah, that I had with Lindsey Graham. He denied he did anything wrong. He claimed he was just focused on the Senate race and not trying to get rid of those illegal ballots. It's unclear why, though, the special grand jury may have viewed things differently.
Yeah, we will have to look through this and try to see if we can find some of those answers. Manu Raju, thank you so much for your reporting. It was really interesting hearing again from Lindsey Graham on his thoughts on this. I want to go now to our Dana Bash, who has been standing by and I'm sure pouring through all of this. I first want to start with listening to this important moment where Wolf Blitzer spoke with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger on some of the issues that are now coming up in this unredacted grand jury report. Let's listen.
You described to the Washington Post a conversation you had with Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on Friday. You came away with the impression that he essentially wanted you to look for ways to toss out mail-in ballots. What exactly did he say to you?
Well, he asked if the ballots could be matched back to the voters. And then I got the sense it implied that then you could throw those out. And he really would look at the counties with the highest frequent error of signatures. So that's the impression that I got.
I just want to be clear on this, Mr. Secretary. You say Senator Graham wanted you to find ways to get rid of legally cast ballots because CNN asked him about these allegations. He denied them. He says that's ridiculous. His words, that's ridiculous.
I gotta go walk the dog. I'm so bummed, but he's gotta go, and I love him so much. I'll be right back.
Ballots you could throw out, and I think that they were looking at that as part of a court case, and one actually was subsequently filed, wasn't it?
I mean, that is from the Georgia Secretary of State and how he felt at the time and what he heard on that phone call. Dana, what is the fallout of this? Is there going to be any? Because charges have not been made against Graham and the two other former senators.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I find interesting in looking at this report, Sarah, is that, as Michael Moore said, we're kind of seeing the outside of the car and not the engine. But one very important sort of mechanical, to keep the metaphor going, data point is that we do have the way these special grand jurors voted. And I'm looking at this long list, and everybody who was indicted, from Rudy Giuliani to John Eastman to Donald Trump himself, 20 said yes, and only one said no. And, you know, it was very, very lopsided. Going down to Lindsey Graham, Sarah, 13 said yes, 7 said no. So it was more split for him. Same goes for the other two now former U.S. senators, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. That David Perdue got 17 yeses, Kelly Loeffler 14 yeses. So that to me is very perhaps instructive, indicative of one of the reasons, perhaps, why Fani Willis decided, you know what, I'm not going to go there on those. It's not, even with regard to this special grand jury, how they viewed the case and how strong the case is. On those particular individuals, perhaps it's not as strong. The other way to look at it, and we're not going to really get the answer until we talk to Fani Willis and to the people who work in her office, is that she might not have wanted to have that constitutional fight. It's already a very big fight that she is having starting with Mark Meadows, the question of whether or not she even has jurisdiction to be prosecuting Mark Meadows, who worked for the federal government. And it is likely she's going to have that same fight with Donald Trump. Having that fight with a sitting U.S. senator who is going to claim that she has absolutely no reason and no ability, no jurisdiction to indict a sitting U.S. senator is probably something that I would guess she saw as a bit of a distraction, which is why she decided not to go for the indictment there.
Yeah, Dan, it's really interesting in light of what's happening with Jim Jordan going after her, which she says is trying to obstruct and interfere in her job as a DA. But she made a decision, it seems, not to indict these folks, one of whom is a sitting senator. There is so much to get into, but I really enjoyed the way you looked through this and found some of those details. It's important. No, it's important. I know you had to do it fast, but it's important to look at the numbers, because the numbers do matter.
Yeah.
They do matter to prosecutors as to whether or not they can
got the fewest.
Prove a case. Yeah.
He got the fewest yeses, except for the alternate slate of so-called fake electors. They only got nine special grand jurors said that they should be indicted, and none of them, it looks like, was indicted.
Dana Bash, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Kate.
In this list of those that this special grand jury recommended charging includes additional Trump aides that have not been charged so far. Let's get over to Evan Perez, because I know, Evan, you've been looking at that. Talk to me about the other Trump aides that you're seeing in here and what that you're seeing in this special grand jury report.
Well, that's right, Kate. There was a lot of focus on some of the big names, the former aides of the former president, who were very, very involved, hands-on, very instrumental in some of the efforts, not only to try to overturn the election results, but also to try to find these, to try to seat these fake electors, the electors that they would cast votes for Donald Trump, even though he had lost the election. And the names that stick out, again, on this list of 39, including the slate of fake electors, of 39, that the grand jury recommended charges under the RICO statute, the racketeering statute, according to
Okay, I'm back.
One of them is Cleta.
What I miss? What I miss? Hi, gal. No, I haven't read it yet. No, I haven't read it yet. But we're going to do that. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
After the election, to try to help the former president.
Hi, Rip.
She was sent down to Georgia to try to pressure officials there, again, to try to find as many votes as possible to throw out and to try to toss the election results to Donald Trump. She was recommended here overwhelmingly by the grand jury, 20 votes in favor of her being indicted under the racketeering statute. Another name, Michael Flynn. Obviously, he was
they're about to lose their freedom, and I think
Donald Trump's presidency, but found his way back in. He was
I think this means Jack is on the cruise. Hi, good morning. Sorry, I decided to go early so that we could go over this.
The falsehood that there had been fraud in the election results.
Oh, okay, I put the link in the. I have it, Gal. Thank you so much. I also have the link up earlier in the chat. No, I did not watch Alex Jones.
To get these fake electors seated. Again, grand jury found.
I watched Triggered.
These people.
I watched Junior.
Michael Flynn, Cleta Mitchell, close aides of the former president, aides who were very much instrumental in trying to devise this.
Look at her. She's like, I'm not going anywhere.
Donald Trump back into the White House. All of them
I know, right?
To be charged under the racketeering statute.
I was going to do a space, but then like my food was coming, and I don't know, so I decided to go early.
The district attorney, and so one of the questions, obviously, that
I know, Cleta, she doesn't know what's going to happen.
Why is that? It appears that the grand jury believe very
Let's
strongly.
make it the end of
they got 20 votes.
Houses of Usher, the fall of the House of Usher.
Some kind of charge against.
And I don't mean the singer. I mean the.
And in the
think
end, the DA and her team decided not to pursue those charges. Now, we do know these people. Some of these people provided testimony, and it may well be that in the end, she found that their testimony was compelling enough or helpful enough that they did not deserve to be charged. Again, those are questions that we're going to have to figure out later. But it is very interesting to see these names pop up. Ones that we had speculated about, certainly also in the federal investigation, whether they may face some charges. Those are big questions also.
Those are big questions. And speaking about those who came before, I was just kind of trying to jog my memory. Michael Flynn had gone before the grand jury to testify in Georgia. Boris Epstein had done the same. So just exactly to your point about some of these people who were recommended to face charges did go before this grand jury. Evan, keep going through it. Thank you so much. We'll get back to you. Let me get over to Paula Reed. Paula's had some time to look through this as well. Paula, what are you picking up?
Oh, what's so interesting, Kate, is when you look at the math, the way the special grand jury voted on each of these individuals, I think there are going to be a lot of questions for the district attorney about some of the decisions that she made here. You can see.
I mean, it has to be. Yeah, it's Friday.
Tool for prosecutors.
Oh, Saturday birthday. Oh, gal,
by a jury in the same district. And when you look at the lawmakers,
no worries, girl. You go. Love that little boy. Oh,
you can see the way they.
No worries. I'm not sure what's going to happen today because I've been up since very early, so I'm not sure I'm going to make it.
You can see maybe why she chose not to follow through with charging them. I mean, this special grand jury recommendation even suggests that they could have trouble proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt. But when it comes to the Trump advisors, and Evan touched on this, the math is different. You see the vote breakdown for Cleta Mitchell, for Boris Epstein, for Mike Flynn, is actually identical to many of the people they charged. You see only one person voting no. So it really does beg the question why the district attorney, why Fani Willis made the decision not to pursue charges against
I wonder if it's
those
because she
Trump
talked to
advisors
Jack.
who have identified Boris Epstein as one of the unnamed, unindicted co-conspirators.
Right?
So
You're right. Actually, that's probably what's going to happen.
Exactly how
Let's be
she
honest.
made these decisions, who to charge, like when it comes to Rudy Giuliani or John Eastman. The special grand jury voted the same way they did for Cleta Mitchell. So was it that Mitchell provided something incredibly useful to her? Will she be called at trial? What was her game plan here? What was her strategy?
Yeah, I'm getting at what we're talking about in the lead up to this is this prosecutorial discretion in what the DA decides to do with the recommendations coming from the special grand jury. Paul is going to get back to it, look through some more, and also look at kind of what the implications of this could be going forward. John?
All right, thanks, Kate. Joining us now, once again, attorneys Michael Moore and Tim Hafey. I've been going through this, and Lindsey Graham, Kelly Loeffler,
Michael Moore, the
David
famous
Perdue, the current senator, Lindsey Graham, the
filmmaker?
former senators, Kelly
Just
Loeffler
kidding.
and David Perdue. The count that the grand jury recommended charges on, as you pointed out, Michael Moore, let me read this. This is number 7. With respect to the national effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election, focused on efforts in Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia, the grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek indictments of the following persons. And then they included the votes. And just to reiterate what people have been saying,
Oh, my
Lindsey Graham, it was
heart.
13
Oh,
yay,
like a
7 no.
baby.
7 no votes on
Yeah,
indicting
exactly.
Lindsey Graham.
Oh, look, there's
David Perdue,
Flynn.
17 yes,
The one
4
no one
no.
talks
Kelly
about.
Loeffler, 14 yes, 6 no. You've both been prosecutors. If a special grand jury, I mean, the old saying is that, grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. But if a special grand jury is, if 7, a full third is telling you, is that reason enough for Fani Willis to say, this is not a road we
Basilios,
go
that's
down?
so right. Finally.
It is. You're exactly right. That the sort of the old adage is the prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. And you certainly don't want to, after 8 months of work, end up with half a sandwich. And that's really what they did as it related to the sitting senator and the two
Okay,
former
let's
senators
calm
at the time.
down.
And so that
Of
risk
course, he's
going
gonna
forward,
be your
just wasn't
baby
worth
boy
it.
forever. I
It's
love
not
him.
worth it
He's
if you
such a
think
good
that
little
you are gonna
soul. He's such
put a
a
bunch of
sweet
defendants in a
soul.
RICO case, but you're going to put people in there that already have folks that are supposed to be on your side, or at least you have the ability to influence more readily. That being this special purpose grand jury, they only hear your side of the case as a prosecutor. That they're already not so sure that you can even prove that. Remember, they've not had been cross-examined. They've seen no defense case. They've had no jury charges about what reasonable doubt is or anything else, but they're already voting that they shouldn't be charged. That's got to give you pause, as I say, because you don't need half a sandwich after 8 months of work with a special purpose grand jury.
And Tim, in
Good
terms of
thing I
Lindsey Graham
ate something.
specifically, again, the only, and I don't even know if you're supposed to call it a count in a special grand jury report here, but it's number 7. The only one where they recommended charges was that broad issue that I just brought up of overturning the 2020 election. It was not specifically for the phone call that Lindsey Graham made. Now, Donald Trump, the phone call is listed, and it's one of the counts that they voted on for Donald Trump and some others involved, but Lindsey Graham's phone call is not mentioned here at all specifically. Is there anything we can read into that, Tim?
Yeah, first of all, the select committee didn't speak to Senator Graham nor Ms. Loeffler or Mr. Perdue. So other than what's been reported, it's not really clear what their role was. I think for Loeffler and Perdue, they were repeating these false claims of election fraud, and that, given their position, was arguably part of the scheme to prevent the transfer of power, to undercut confidence in the election. Senator Graham, with the direct conversation with Secretary Raffensperger, there's evidence of actual, taking a step further beyond public statements. But the clip you played earlier of his explanation was an inquiry rather than a pressurized, attempt to get Secretary Raffensperger to do something. So I could see why a prosecutor would, based on that potential defense and the sort of lack of granular evidence of anything beyond public statements, stop short of charging them. And as Dana said earlier, you're avoiding a huge distraction and litigation over whether this is speech and debate protected. And prosecutors always make these hard.
I mean, it was
calls
very
about who to
strategic.
include in an indictment. That doesn't mean that there isn't some evidence that would support their inclusion, but for lots of reasons, cooperation, avoidance of issues, they're not included. So absent seeing what they really actually saw or what the evidence is against them that the grand jury considered, it's really hard to look beyond her decision.
Yeah, and absent that is really the big issue as we thumb through this report, Michael, because as you point out, we've got some names of people who were not charged. We have the vote counts of the special grand jury itself. But other than that, I think the legal term is bupkis. I mean, there's nothing in here in terms of witness testimony or transcripts or really anything that I see in here that could be instructive for either a prosecution or a defense. What about you?
I think that's right. I mean, and sort of to put it in perspective for the viewers that have not seen the report, don't have a copy of it. The report's about 26 pages long, double spaced, but only 9 pages contain information about
Hello, Rogue.
charges.
Good morning.
And that's usually just a list of names with a vote tally out by the side. So there's just not a lot of information. The rest of the report is sort of a recitation of the law and the statutes that may be implicated by the report. There's just not much information to go on.
I also wonder if it was a conversation really about the roles of some of those folks and what it means for the federal case. I mean, I know that might be too like non-legal lawyerly, but I just wonder if that's the case with people, especially like Mike Flynn and Cleta Mitchell. Not so much the senators. I don't give a shit about that. I mean, I do, but
defense attorneys sort of a good look at other people to talk to. It lists these other names, as we've talked about, the people who were not charged. It gives them sort of the witness thoughts. It gives them the grand jurors' thoughts. They'll have experts looking at this saying, well, wonder why they didn't recommend so-and-so. I wonder why the vote was different on, Mr. X and than it was on Miss Y. They'll go through that process in deciding it. So, I mean, there's some good, useful analytics to be done by both sides. But when it comes to having much ham in the sandwich, there's just not much meat in this report.
So Tim, what do you do with that information then? Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah. To Michael's point, look, this is precisely why we have in the federal system a grand jury secrecy rule. It's really important. Rule 6C precludes the release of grand jury information because it's really prejudicial, right? Like to have out there now that a grand jury recommended charges against certain people who weren't charged tars them, affects them without then any corresponding subsequent opportunity to sort of clear their name, right? This is why grand jury proceedings should be secret. This is a weird process. It's a special grand jury, but it puts people like Kelly Loeffler and Lindsey Graham and David Perdue and Michael Flynn in a hard situation because they've now been sort of accused in this report, but there isn't a proceeding at which they will be able to defend themselves. So to me, it sort of reinforces.
Have you met them?
Keep grand jury proceedings.
They don't need a proceeding. I do agree with that, though.
Implicated somehow in an investigation has a prejudicial effect.
I get that. And Michael, to further your point, okay, so what do you do with Cleta Mitchell or Lynn Wood or David Perdue or Kelly Loeffler if you're a defense attorney? If you could call them to ask them, I mean, what kind of stuff could you find out from them?
Well, you may find out if they've had any discussions with prosecutors. You'll find out if they're willing to talk to you, what those discussions were, what areas of inquiry what were made of them. Was the prosecutor interested in a meeting on a certain day? Were they interested in emails between you and somebody else? I mean, you'll get as much information as you can because if they're not actually cooperating with the state. If they turn around and say, well, look, I can't talk to you, you'll have to talk to my lawyer. You can pretty much, read into that. Without a Rosetta Stone, you don't need that to interpret the fact that
I think they're coming. Just saying.
So you'll get some information like that. I do think again you may sort of look at their role, look at how their role may have been publicly defined, and think about what information the grand jury had before it would have made a decision one way or another, and especially as you count up the votes. But this is a lot of speculation on a pretty skeletal report, and you'll try to analyze it if you're one of the lawyers representing one of the defendants to see what you could glean from it, and you'll also look to see if there are inconsistencies, are there irregularities in the process. And I think probably having looked at this report now, it strikes me that one of the greatest avenues that we'll likely see, or most likely avenues we'll see from the defense bar, will be to challenge the irregularity of the process and the use of some of this information ultimately in the indictment. And again, that motion I think is likely pending already. But clearly there was
But
information.
every
before
move
it,
has been
and we
so
now see
strategic.
that
I
the
don't
DA is treating
understand
some people
why the
differently
Fulton
despite the
County DA, or
recommendation, and it just
yeah,
sort of adds
why
to the overall
they would do this if they
uniqueness
thought it would
of
cause
this
a
particular
mistrial
case.
or
I got to let you go, but I
somehow
just want to
risk
follow
the
up very
case. I
quickly.
don't know.
20 seconds less. When you say irregularity here, are you talking about the fact that some people on this list were charged and some weren't? That's what's irregular?
I think it's both the use of the special purpose grand jury as well as the fact that then the recommendations were not followed. And so that'll be something I think, whether it bears out or not, that'll be a motion I think you'll see.
All right, Michael Moore, Tim Hafey, thank you both very much. Sarah?
All right, let's get straight over to Kristen Holmes to tell us what you're hearing from the Trump camp. Certainly, we will probably hear something on social media at some point, but what are you hearing as you comb through your contacts and make those contacts with them about this?
That's right. So we're still waiting for an official statement. Instead, Donald Trump has been ranting on social media all morning about another advisor who was caught up in another investigation into the former president, Peter Navarro, who was found in contempt of Congress yesterday. But one thing, as somebody who covers Trump day in and day out, that really struck me about this list of people who weren't
Smeagol
ultimately charged
lost.
is how close many of them still are to former President Trump.
That's right.
You look at Senator Lindsey Graham.
That's
He
right.
still talks to Trump regularly. He was with him
Yeah.
by his side at his first campaign stop in 2023 in South Carolina. He has said he's throwing his support behind him. You know, Boris Epstein is still Trump's lawyer and still his advisor on that campaign. And the
Yeah.
other person to point out, Michael Flynn. They still have a relationship. We know that Michael Flynn and Trump have spent time together at Mar-a-Lago. He's been spotted there on multiple occasions. The other thing I want to note here is David Perdue, because we talked about, and I know Manu mentioned this meeting that he had with Governor Kemp at the time and Senator Loeffler trying to urge him to call this special session to help Donald Trump with his effort to overturn the 2020 election. But the other thing we haven't noticed, we haven't mentioned, is the fact that he ran an entire failed gubernatorial campaign on those election lies in 2022. He was backed by Donald Trump. The whole entire reason he ran was because Donald Trump was still mad that Brian Kemp had not overturned that election. And that was the entire messaging of Senator Perdue's governor campaign that, again, he lost. But that's interesting here into context. It's not just these lies that we know happened during the election in 2020. Perdue is someone who were continuing to spread these conspiracies and falsehoods for years after that.
Kristen, having covered him, do you see him coming out very strongly to talk about Senator Graham and those he is still quite close with, being that they're not going to be charged at this point? The grand jury did recommend it, and there are 21 people that are not charged in the indictment. So the argument can't be made that Fani Willis was just throwing spaghetti out the wall and seeing what stuck. This was very surgical if you look at the number of people who weren't indicted.
That's right. And I think what we usually hear from Donald Trump is the same kind of thing. He says that, can you believe they're doing this to these people who are close to me, these patriots? Can you believe that they're putting them through this right now? Of course, it's a horrible thing. And it's honestly what he's saying about Peter Navarro right now as well. And this is the entirety of Trump's 2024 campaign. It is political. He is saying that this is election interference, that they're doing this to his allies, to people who support him because he is running for president. And the more that this happens, the more you're going to continue to hear that rhetoric. I cannot say this enough, Sarah. There is no legal and political. It is one thing right now because Trump is using this legal for his political gain. And they do believe, at least in the short term, that it will help him.
I do want to ask you just overall. I mean, this is we
feels like a
sometimes see it in the
nightmare.
news and forget how important
Hi,
this case
Jim.
is to American democracy. And I'm curious.
Well, I
from
imagine
you
he
if
would.
you think that there are people around
He
Donald
should
Trump that are
offer any
concerned
information he has.
with some of his rhetoric, because these judges are looking at this and watching what he's saying and worrying about those who are being threatened by people who are trolls for Donald Trump, whether it be online or whether it be on a phone call. Is there any concern about how he attacks and what he does on social media as well?
Absolutely. But his aides and advisors do not feel like they have any control over what he puts on social media. And I talk to them all the time. And whenever we see one of these inflammatory posts, I often hear from advisors that they didn't know he was going to put it out there. They do not have control over what he puts
out onto the internet. We also know that several of his lawyers at various times in various investigations have essentially begged him to not put anything inflammatory in writing, to not post anything, to not talk about these cases. But yet he still does. This is the way that he feels like he is communicating with his supporters, with his voters. But I do want to note one thing. You talked about the importance of this case. When I have spoken to the former president, interviewed him, asked him questions, when I've talked to aides around him, they know how serious this case is. And this case really angers and agitates the former president. He has been after his arrest in Georgia, he was very upset. We know that he was very angry. He was lashing out. This is a case that has continually plagued him. Now, he maintains that he did nothing wrong when it comes to this case, that he has every right to say that the election was stolen, to question the election. But again, we know specifically this case is one that makes him particularly angry and agitated when he looks at his legal landscape.
Kristen Helms, thank you for all of that and going through all of that with us. And we will, of course, be coming back to you if you get any new information as to what the Trump camp is up to right now.
Wait a minute. Oh, whoops. Whoa, we're back. Okay, sorry. Jeez. All right. Oh, hold on.
Special grand jury has just been released. Jurors listing a total of 39 people they said should face charges for efforts to overturn the election results. That's 20 plus additional people than what the district attorney eventually sought charges against.
Ivan's
Among
blind
those
ass
in
Pence
this
card
full
email
report,
was the tip
South
of the
Carolina
ball,
Senator
Lance,
Lindsey
that
Graham
started the
and two
losing.
former senators from
That's
Georgia,
so
Dave
gross.
Perdue and Kelly Loeffler.
The Trump
The special
administration
grand
sounds
jury
like a modern version
recommended
of the
that
Emperor's
they
New Clothes.
face
Oh,
charges,
fuck yeah.
but the district
God, nailed
attorney
it.
did
That's
not
right,
end
Jim.
up charging them. These are the 19 people that the district attorney has charged and is alleged has taken part
There's
in
a lot of dice rolling going on right now.
by Donald
A lot
Trump
of dice
to
rolling.
overturn the 2020 election. These are the mugshots. These are the 19 charged. What is the difference between this report and what we are dealing with?
Hi, Lee. Thank you so much for stopping in. I'll see you later.
CNN's
I
Evan
hope.
Perez, Paula
Take
Reed,
care.
they're standing by with details on this. Paula, let me start with you. What are your major takeaways from this?
Well, Kate, I want to think about these in two groups in terms of the people who were not charged. Let's first start with the lawmakers, Senator Lindsey Graham and former Georgia Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Now, these are probably going to create the biggest headlines here, particularly Senator Lindsey Graham, because he's a sitting senator. But when you look at the vote count, sort of how the members of the special grand jury came back, it was clear they were divided on whether these individuals should be charged. There was a recommendation, but it was not unanimous, and it wasn't just one person voting no. So it's pretty clear why the district attorney would not proceed with charges, because this is the most friendly environment possible for her case, right? You don't have lawyers in the room with witnesses. You don't have a defense presentation. There isn't a high bar. You can indict a ham sandwich is, of course, the famous saying. This is not beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you have problems with a case before a special grand jury, you're going to have big problems in a real courtroom. It's pretty clear why she wouldn't proceed against these three individuals. But when it comes to the other group that we're all talking about, which is a group of Trump advisors, Cleta Mitchell, Mike Flynn, and Boris Epshteyn. Both Flynn and Epshteyn tend to advise Trump at the national level after the election, where Cleta Mitchell was actually on the ground in Georgia. But here, these recommendations, the math, the votes from the special grand jury mirror those of people who were actually charged, like Rudy Giuliani or former President Trump. So that's going to actually raise a lot of questions about exactly why they were not charged. But Kate, I think another big question that's going to be out there is whether we should have access to all of this. Of course, CNN was one of the media outlets that pushed to have this historic document unsealed. But usually grand jury proceedings are done in secret to protect witnesses, to give them the freedom and the sense of security.
When
to
was
speak
that
freely,
email?
and also
Yeah,
to
which
protect
email
people
last
who are not
wrote?
ultimately charged, because now we have all these names out there. We have the
Because
math
he
for
was
how
all
they
over
voted in terms
Telegram
of
and
recommending
shit,
them to be
you
charged,
know.
but they don't actually have a mechanism or a process to clear their name, besides the fact that they weren't charged. So far in the state of Georgia, what we've seen is consistently they have erred far on the side of transparency. We have cameras in the courtroom, so anyone can watch these proceedings, even the mundane scheduling and logistics proceedings. We also saw, though, the members of this special grand jury, their names were published with this indictment, and many of them have been doxxed online and faced threats. And now we get access, again, to this historic document. It's something CNN and other outlets pushed for, but there is a balance when it comes to transparency. I think that's going to be part of the conversation going forward as well.
All right, Paul, thank you for that. Evan, let me bring you in on this. What are you picking up about the other officials that are not charged here that we're learning about?
Why didn't they
You're
redact
right.
that?
There are 21 names that are
Why didn't
listed
they
on this
redact
list of
those names
39
and
names
addresses?
of
I
people
don't.
who were recommended that they were
I'm okay
that
with
be
that
brought
lack of
charges against, that
transparency.
ended up
I
not being
understand
charged.
why.
And of
I
course,
don't
the
know.
names, some of them Paula just
That
just
seems
pointed out,
terrible.
the names of officials, right? People in very high level positions who were very, very much involved in trying to either pressure state officials to try to find this, the alleged fraud that Donald Trump and his allies said existed, and of course didn't. And of course, some of them went to extraordinary means. Some of them we saw in public, of course. But Lindsey Graham, obviously, the fact that he is a sitting
Yeah, I
senator,
understand.
the
I
one
just
that,
feel like,
certainly has spoken a lot. You've seen him talk to reporters
why
about
wouldn't you make a
what he
motion
thought
to?
was going on.
I don't know.
The
I guess
idea
you
that
can.
the grand jury ended up voting 20 votes to
Yeah,
one
no, I understand.
to bring charges, and then the district attorney decided not to bring those charges, obviously is a big question that I think will persist after today. The other thing that obviously will come from this is, what exactly did turn up in this investigation? Is there something else that might come out in some of the discovery that we might see later on? Again, those are big questions that are going to be going forward in the weeks and months as this case goes forward. Of course, there's also David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, two former senators. Both of them lost their seats in the end, partly because of their efforts associating themselves with the former president's claims of fraud, which turned out not to be. In the case of Perdue, he pushed for the governor to actually have a special session, something that, of course, the former president was pushing for, wanted to make sure that the legislature intervened to try to throw the votes, the election results in that state, and then make way for the slate of false electors, which are also named, by the way, Kate, in this document. That for the false electors were named by the grand jury. It was a much closer vote. There were only 9 votes to indict them in the end. Obviously, that didn't happen. But what's interesting, obviously,
Well, they're
is
lucky.
the role of these high-level officials, that some of which obviously played out in public view, and in the end, Fani Willis decided for whatever reason that she was not going to bring those charges, perhaps because of the additional political implications of it and the difficulty that would present for her case, Kate.
Interesting. Evan, thank you so much. Paul, thank you as well. I'm going to continue working their sources on this. Sarah?
All right, we want to talk about sort of some of the politics of this.
She indicted a current candidate for president of the United States. I don't think she was scared of indicting anyone politically. I think she went by the law. And if she didn't feel as a prosecutor she had enough to make it stick, she wasn't going to waste the taxpayers' money until she could. So I think that's what, if I were Fani Willis, and I'm sure she's a lot fucking smarter than I am,
you had a conversation
that
with
seems
Lindsey
very
Graham
reasonable
about
to
all
me.
of this, and he's obviously a sitting senator. And the one
Am
that's
I
gonna make
happy
the
about
most
it?
news,
No,
frankly,
I'm not.
from this.
But
What did he say, and what was your takeaway, your biggest takeaway from your conversation?
that's it.
Yeah,
She's not
recall
trying.
this is
She's a
right after
badass,
the
and she's not
2020
trying to make us
elections. There was
happy. Okay.
Brad Raffensperger spoke publicly about this phone call that he had
Word to your
with
mother.
Lindsey Graham. He believed that Lindsey Graham was essentially pressuring him or wanted to get rid of legally valid ballots, and that could, in Raffensperger's view, disenfranchise the voters of Georgia. Now, that is something that Lindsey Graham flatly denied.
No,
When I
but
asked
we'll
him
be
about that
covering it.
allegation, he contended that he was not even talking about the 2020 presidential race. He said he was talking about the mail-in voting system in Georgia and how the signature verification system worked, and how that would work headed into a very, very critical Senate races, 2 Senate races in Georgia. In January 2021, there were the 2 Senate races, the runoffs there, that ultimately Democrats won and took back control of the majority. Lindsey Graham claimed that that was in focus entirely, and he pushed back on Raffensperger's claims.
What I'm very concerned about is that if you're going to continue to vote by mail, that we need to know what systems work and what don't. It's up to the people of Georgia. But I think I have every right in the world to reach out and say, how does it work? And that's what I did. It's really, I thought, a pretty good conversation. So,
I mean, he thinks it was an implicit threat by
you know,
what you were saying.
I categorically reject that. That wasn't my intent, and that wasn't the purpose of the conversation, to throw out ballots. We're talking about an election we ain't even had yet, which is the Senate races. That was my focus. It's how do you verify signatures? We've got a new Senate race coming up. Is there anything we can do to make it better?
So you were concerned about the Senate races more than what was
Yeah,
happening
that's
with
what the whole
president?
thing was about. I mean, they've got a
What?
process.
No, I'm
You
just
can't change the
worried.
law
Hi,
without
Curtis.
So
All
let's just go back to
right.
that. Whatever
Yeah,
system
pull
is
up
in
a
place with
bar
the
stool and
election,
have a
we're gonna
seat.
live with it. The whole conversation was about the Senate race.
Now, it's unclear why the special grand jury, a majority of these, special grand jury recommended charges, whether Graham's testimony was different in any way, whether there was additional evidence about Senator Lindsey Graham's efforts. It voted 13 in the affirmative to try to pursue charges, 7 in the negative in the special grand jury. So the report does not detail any of that specifically. We do know that Lindsey Graham did ultimately testify before the grand jury in Georgia after he fought a subpoena, did not want to testify, did not think he would believe that it was appropriate to bring a sitting senator in to testify before this panel. He took it to court. They fought it. He ultimately lost that fight and did cooperate. And then afterwards, I did talk to him about the testimony before the grand jury. He said he cooperated fully, but he refused to provide any details about that testimony. I asked him also, did he expect to be charged?
I want to
He
see
said
the
flatly he did not expect to be
transcript.
charged. So it's unclear how he's going to respond to this specific recommendation. At the moment, his office has not yet commented about this, but as you can hear there from those comments back in 2020, he claims he did nothing wrong.
I do want to, just in all fairness, I do want to play what Brad Raffensperger said back then. He talked to Wolf Blitzer about this very issue and how he felt on the other side of the line when he was speaking to Lindsey Graham. Let's listen to that.
You described to the Washington Post a conversation you had with Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on Friday. You came away with the impression that he essentially wanted you to look for ways to toss out mail-in ballots. What exactly did he say to you?
Well, he asked if the ballots could be matched back to the voters, and then I got the sense it implied that then you could throw those out for any. Really would look at the counties with the highest frequent error of signatures. So that's the impression that I got.
I just want to be clear on this, Mr. Secretary. You say Senator Graham wanted you to find ways to get rid of legally cast ballots because CNN asked him about these allegations. He denied them. He says that's ridiculous. His words, that's ridiculous.
Well, it's just an implication
Yes,
that
please do.
look hard and see
I was
how many
looking for
ballots you
spaces
could
this
throw
morning.
out.
I didn't see one.
And I think that they were looking at that as part of a court case. And one actually was subsequently filed, wasn't it?
All right, so you heard his words there. They are different from what Lindsey Graham is saying. How does he square that? I mean, it's on camera. He's talking about it.
Exactly. I mean, perhaps a difference of interpretation, perhaps the words were, he said he implied to throw out the ballots. Maybe the words weren't as explicit as Raffensperger led on. It's unclear. None of us were on that call. There was 2 men who had different interpretations coming out of that call. But we do know that Raffensperger did testify himself before the grand jury. He also talked to the January 6th Select Committee on Capitol Hill investigating all of this. Lindsey Graham talked to the grand jury, gave his side of events, and didn't talk to this January 6th committee. But nevertheless, clear difference in interpretation. But perhaps that's why, Sarah, there was not a clear consensus among the 20, among the unanimous consensus among the special grand jury, which voted 13-7 to pursue charges, not 20-1, as most of these other charges were for
It's
Donald
a
Trump.
dream wrapped in a nightmare.
Raju, thank you as always
Covered
for
in hope.
reporting for today and all the other days where you're chasing people down on Capitol Hill. I want to go straight to Kristen Holmes because Kristen has some new reporting for us. Now, I knew you'd get it. I knew you'd get it in the next few minutes. What are you hearing from the Trump camp at this hour?
That's right. So we have a statement from the Trump campaign spokesperson. This is what they said. Democrat partisan Fani Willis and her unlawfully constructed, politically motivated so-called special grand jury have now been completely exposed as operatives and tools of the radical Democrats that they are. In a clearly biased, un-American act, a majority of the special grand jurors
We are
voted to
so
indict dozens of
powerful.
innocent individuals, including former and sitting U.S. senators, simply for raising concerns about election integrity and exercising their First Amendment rights under the Constitution. So again, this is really the same line that we have heard over and over again, saying that this is partisan, saying that this is political, and pointing to the fact that because there are U.S. senators, Republican U.S. senators, that is why this is political. And one thing to point out here is I actually spoke to a number of Trump advisors just a few moments ago who noted that they believed that because they were thinking about discussing indicting sitting U.S. senators, that this would actually look good for Donald Trump because it would look like they were overreaching in some way. Now, again, this is what they are telling me. And this statement here is almost exactly what we would expect to see, which is Trump saying it's all political. As we know, one of Trump's biggest things that he likes to say is they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just standing in your way. And I do want to note one thing, because I forgot to tell you this earlier, Sarah. He will be speaking tonight. He's going to South Dakota for a rally. It's the first time we've actually seen him since that arrest in Georgia. So interesting to watch that and see what he says about this then.
It is very interesting to hear that statement. It is not a surprise, like you said. It's very much in line. But to be fair to Fani Willis, she says she is just doing her job, and they didn't indict a sitting senator and 2 other former senators. So that's a circle he can't square at this point in time. She didn't go forward with the charges against them. All very interesting. We will check back with you. We'll certainly be listening to what he says in South Dakota. I'm going to toss it over to John.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much. And again, to reiterate the point you just made, the news here is who was not charged. Who was not charged? 1 sitting U.S. Senator, Lindsey Graham, 2 former senators, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. With us now, CNN legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney Michael Moore, back with us, and also Shan Wu, defense attorney and former federal prosecutor. Shan, we haven't had a chance to speak with you yet. I want to focus on the Lindsey Graham news or non-news. To be clear here, he was not charged. He was not indicted. And I suppose the question is, why? Was it because this special grand jury showed some reservations there, only voting by a vote of 13-7 to indict him? Is that what might have caused Fani Willis trepidation? Or
hello,
the
Miss
difficulty of
Summer.
charging the U.S. senator? Or
Happy
maybe
Magistrate Visit Day. I'm just kidding.
Picking between those
Happy
3,
Friday.
John, I'd say it's more
I
likely.
love you.
the
I'm
evidence
sorry. I'm
is,
not making
as you've been
jokes.
Pointing out, so
I'm
Michael,
making
which you
jokes
can't
with
see
you,
the
not
transcript of
at
the evidence. We're
you.
really kind of seeing a summary
I love you.
here. The votes,
I do love you.
I'm a little bit skeptical of that, but there's some distinctions to be made. Having indicted hundreds
Yes,
of
please
grand
massage the like
grand jurors
button.
indictments, I can tell you that that vote did
I
not
knew you
matter
would
to us
laugh.
very much, unless it was really, really slim, like almost a deadlock to it. But I think to Michael's point, this is a grand jury which had been very
El
focused on this one case for a
Sarmento,
long time,
J31C,
and
how are
therefore the weight of
you?
those votes might have carried a lot more meaning to the prosecutor in making those decisions. It's also, I don't think the potential federal official defenses would have bothered this prosecutor very much. That's speculation, but it seems like she would feel she had the evidence, full steam ahead. It's possible to me that they may have done a good job for themselves in the testifying before the grand jury for some of these folks. Graham, politicians sometimes come across pretty well as witnesses for the down-home kind of approach, talking to the grand jurors, may have influenced some of that votes, but also the prosecutors may have looked at that and said, well, he has a colorable defense here, and they may have felt there was not enough evidence to overcome that. So I lean more towards she had a look at the evidence that we can't see, and that's probably the biggest factor.
Yeah, and just to be clear,
Yes.
it's not
Yes, Summer.
specific what Lindsey Graham,
Yes,
what
yes,
this
yes.
special grand jury was recommending
Indeed.
an indictment on. It's the broadest of all possible charges, the national effort to
From where
overturn
I'm
the
sitting,
2020 election.
that's
The
going to
phone
happen
call that we
again.
focused on so
You're
much,
going to
it
be
is
the
not
one
enumerated
laughing.
here in this report. It is for Donald Trump and some others. Their phone call, Lindsey Graham's phone call, is not specifically listed here. Michael, if you can, teach a little bit of law school here so I can understand and our viewers can understand. In a normal grand jury, if there is a vote and that grand jury does vote to indict, even by a margin of 1, as Shan was saying, is a person charged?
Well, and I'm glad to be with Shan this morning too. In a normal grand jury, unless there's a difference in the state grand jury and a federal grand jury. So in a state grand jury, which was what we're talking about here, a prosecutor in Georgia would have to basically present an indictment. You can't go into the state grand jury and say, I want you to investigate this, and then we can decide together which charges we're going to bring. The rule is that an indictment, we call it having to be laid on the table. In other words, presented to the grand jury for their consideration. They hear from some witnesses. They hear a little bit of evidence. It can be a very little bit, a summary type amount of evidence. And then they take a vote. And so at that point, it's up to the grand jury. If they vote to indict, then that indictment is in fact issued by the grand jury. So they are not investigating. That's the difference in what this report is about. This report is merely an investigative tool. And we don't use those, as I say, in Georgia typically. That's what makes us unique.
Totally
But it gave the
appreciate and
DA the
respect it.
opportunity to subpoena witnesses, to subpoena evidence, to bring a bunch of people in
You just
and have
keep
them all
on
talk
keeping
to the
on.
grand jurors
That's
over an
right.
8-month period
FO.
to make a decision on how
Here's
she wanted to
FAFO
move
right
forward with
here,
the case.
right in front of
So,
us.
their report is advisory only. And that's different than what you would have in a criminal grand jury in the state system here. Our state system does not have an advisory grand jury process for a regular criminal grand jury. They simply vote to indict or not to indict. And the prosecutor uses his or her discretion in deciding whether or not to present that indictment to the grand jury. Here, she's using her discretion in deciding whether or not to accept the recommendations of this special purpose advisory grand jury. So they're different beasts, but the simple answer is if you were in Georgia and an indictment was presented to a criminal grand jury, their vote is going to rule the day.
Right. And that's what's different here. I mean, they both of these things have the words grand and jury in them, but in practical terms, they're very, very different. One is basically an investigative panel, an investigative commission that issues recommendations, whereas a actual grand jury issues indictments, lays indictments on the table, Shannon. That is not what happened here. And I hope people do understand that. Yes, a special grand jury recommended charges, but that doesn't mean that they were charged. That doesn't mean that a prosecutor has to then bring charges or that ultimately a grand jury has to choose to indict. So, Shan, what now? How will or can, is there anything in here, and this is sparse, I mean, this is sparse other than the votes. How can the prosecution and defense, in the cases that do exist, use this information?
I know. I'm going to be honest.
Well,
I
don't
thought
think we can
that there
glean
would
too much
find
more
out.
from what the
Oh,
prosecution might
yes.
do with it. I mean, obviously, they know a lot more than's in the sparse report.
What is
For
that?
the
Is that
defense, I
what he
think,
tweeted?
has been discussed, there's some nuggets here. For example, people
Here's
who
the
weren't
thing.
charged,
I
if they haven't
think,
already been interviewed,
I
which they may have
think
already been contacted by the defense.
this is
Be
not the
interesting
end.
as a
Here's the
defense
thing.
counsel
I
to
did think
know
that they were going to
the
have
sorts of
more
questions, what theory the
information
prosecution
in the
is
grand jury
pursuing.
report,
They may also be of some value
but
as
we'll
targets
find
for
out.
finger pointing, which is they didn't get charged, but now I can
A
blame
good
them
lawyer knows
because
a
they're the real masterminds behind this, not my
good
client.
lawyer knows.
So that may come
It's a
into
good one,
play
Jim.
as well. The one other distinction I want to
Let me
follow up
see
on
what
that you made,
Flynn
John,
just
is
tweeted.
there's a little bit of an analogy here to special counsel reports or the old statute independent counsel reports I've been involved in. An important difference, though, is when they write those reports, people who are mentioned have a chance to comment on them. And earlier, Tim Hayfield was making that point, that one of the issues with this coming
Oh,
out
that's
in the
right.
grand jury form is that people who are mentioned, if even recommended to have been charged, don't have the opportunity to really
How
rebut
dare he
that.
call himself
And that's
general?
significant. But
He's
in
not
terms
even
of
a
how it plays out in
general.
court, hard to say other than those two facts. These are people you want to talk to as defense counsel, and these might be people that you want to blame as a defense counsel.
And just to read one part of a dissent from one of these grand jurors who voted against recommending indictments for Perdue and Loeffler. Let me read a footnote that was part of this report. One of the dissenting jurors voting against recommending seeking indictments for Senators Perdue and Loeffler on a RICO claim believe that their statements following the November 2020 election, while pandering to their political base, do not give rise to their being guilty of a criminal conspiracy. Michael, I'll just give you 20 seconds on that. That's instructive. Why?
Yeah, that's your jury. That's exactly what the defense is going to do to play to the trial jury in this case. And you may find that Perdue and Loeffler get subpoenaed to appear as witnesses to basically create a contrast, to essentially allow the defense to ask the state, well, what did you do versus what's so different about what my client did. But that's your jury. They're looking for that one juror to hold out and say, look.
Something else is that no matter what the point, a lawyer will be able to be found to argue with it or anything at all. Yeah, it's true.
Ask you questions about the election.
All right, Michael Moore Shanwu, thank you for helping us understand all of this. Really appreciate it. Kate?
People keep an eye on that, but there's also a lot of other news going on this morning that we are tracking. A Philadelphia police officer has turned himself in today following a deadly police-involved shooting. The district attorney there is preparing to release police body camera footage of the incident that happened last month. Some big developments coming in here, and we're moments away from a press conference on that. Also ahead, the NFL making major strides toward player safety.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted the whole time, and I sang the most beautiful song. No, I didn't. I'm just kidding. Jim, we have 2 times the rise in death and 4 times rise in ER visits from this new COVID variant. Please, please, everyone, please get your booster, wear a mask. Don't go for the hype. Don't listen to it. Don't worry. Okay? This is what I think too. Oh, wait. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear? Yeah, you can hear me, I think. I'm really hopeful that this is true. I'm really hopeful. I'm very hopeful this is true. Thank you, Curtis, because that, yeah, great. Oh, cool. Hi, Max. Hi, Max. Yeah, I know. I have myself muted. I keep having myself muted. I'm not really awake. I haven't had any real coffee. I heated up yesterday's coffee that was left in the pot. That's really sad. This makes me really sad. Okay, actually, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to read this fucking Georgia thing. It's not that long. We can just kind of skim it. We can just kind of skim this and then, you know, blah, 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 blah. We can blah, 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 blah. Yes, you got to wait for them to give you the okay. Yeah. Still away with limited internet, but saw you were live. Cool. Oh, Max, I'm glad you're away. Oh, nice. I hope you're having a good time. All right. Let's see what this motherfucker says. I'm actually going to make it bigger so I don't have to go to the actual. Oh, no, I do have to go to the page. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. So blah, blah, blah. Order entering the special purpose grand jury's final report into court record. On August 28th, the undersigned entered an order that, absent objection, special purpose grand jury's final report that sets forth blah, 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 blah. There have been no objections lodged. Therefore, this is the final report with only the names and 2 signatories redacted. No. All right. Well, I'm going to try not to show the people's names. Okay. Settle in, grab your coffee, grab your beverage. Take care of yourselves. Novavax? Oh, really? I thought it was, oh, really, Siegfried? I'm so sorry. Yeah, COVID. Paxlovid does work wonders, actually. Yes, please do. Oh, I'd love oh, you don't know, Curtis. I wish I had that coffee right now. Okay, I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see when I fuck up. Hi, Clay! Clayberg. Whoa, is that too big? That's a little big. Okay, let's see. You guys can see it? Oh, good. You can kind of read along. Hi, Tom. I know, right? I know, right? Okay. This special purpose grand jury, herein referred to as the grand jury, was impaneled pursuant to an order dated January 24th, 2022 by Christopher Brasher, Chief Judge of the Superior Court of Fulton County, Atlanta Judicial. I really hate that word, circuit. The grand jury consisted of 26 Fulton County residents, 3 of whom were alternates. On any day testimony was received or deliberations were had, the number of jurors present ranged between 16 and 24 as availability allowed. Pursuant to statute, if we had our needed quorum of 16 jurors present, we could do business with that. Grand jury was impaneled to investigate a specific issue, the facts and circumstances relating directly or indirectly to possible attempts to disrupt the lawful administration of the 2020 presidential elections in the state of Georgia. The grand jury was selected on May 2nd, 2022, and first heard evidence on June 1st, 2022. We continue to hear evidence and receive information into December 2022. The grand jury received evidence from or involving 75 witnesses during the course of this investigation, the overwhelming majority of which information was delivered in person under oath. The grand jury also received information in the form of investigator testimony and various forms of digital and physical media. Pursuant to Georgia law, a team of assistant district attorneys provided the grand jury with applicable statutes and procedures. Any recommendation set out herein is the sole conclusion of the grand jury based on testimony presented, facts received, and our deliberations. Blee, blar, blur, blur. We set forth the recommendations on indictments and relevant statutes, including the votes by the grand jurors. This includes the votes respective to each topic, indicated a yea, nay, abstain, format throughout. Total number of grand juries at place to vote. Footnotes have been added where applicable. The grand jury, excuse me. The grand jury heard extensive testimony on the subject of alleged allegation fraud from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, and state of Georgia employees and officials, as well as from persons still claiming that such fraud took place. We find by a unanimous vote that no widespread fraud took place in the Georgia 2020 presidential election that could result in overturning that election. With respect to the January 2nd phone call from President Trump to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, the grand jury recommends the district attorney seek indictments against the following individuals. Donald Trump. In the same connection, we recommend seeking an indictment against the following individuals. Cleta Mitchell, where are you going? Yeah, see, I think she's gonna be yoinked by Jack. I think Jack's gonna yoink her. Wait, I'm gonna catch up with chat. I researched the vaccines. Jen says, I researched the vaccines and stuff yesterday because it's so damn confusing. Work at a grocery store. Yeah, you really do need to, Jen. Jesus Christ. Max, you even need to add an advocate to navigate our insurance. Oh, yeah, no. Actually, I remember that when we got COVID, it was really challenging to get the Paxlovid. You had to really be diligent, which is hard when you're very sick. Unvaccinated people are getting hospitalized at a 4 times higher rate than vaccinated people. This new variant's going to wipe the Yeah, it's not. I heard it's really bad. Siegfried asks, what did you decide, Jen? I don't know. And now we're going to have to do some research. Gosh, be careful out there. I'm wearing a mask now. Where am I? Where's this document? Okay, here we go. With respect to the persistent repeated communications directed to multiple Georgia officials and employees between November 2020 and January 2021, the grand jury recommends the district attorney seek indictments against the following individuals, including the votes. Oh, sorry. I should read the vote totals. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. Shit. Hold on. Okay. So this one, 21 yay, 1 nay, 21 1, 18 1 3 abstain, 19 1 2, 19 21 1 NA. Now look at this. 18 yes, 0. 12 1. I just don't know what those statutes are. So maybe they're not like important enough, you know what I mean? Like, okay, here we go. Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. 17 yay, 1 nay. Boy, there was a Trump fan in there, wasn't there? I mean, it had to be. Don't you think? It's kind of consistent. Which I wouldn't be shocked by. And frankly, it is what it is. Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate it. Nom, 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 nom. Oh my God, no lie. I'm fighting with the ortho after my knees because I can't walk and I just went, oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic, Jen. That's great. Saw where they're trying to limit it to people over 75. What? No. Yeah, get the latest vaccine. I'm waiting until they say we can get the latest vaccine after the hour. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're going to go back. All right. Okay. In the same connection, we recommend seeking indictment against David Perdue. 16 yes. So interesting. Kind of a lot of yeses. But I mean, again, I don't know. I feel like there's shoes dropping like every day. With respect to the several legislative hearings held before the Georgia legislature in December of 2020 and evidence presented therein, including items such as the State Farm Arena video, the purported statistics of vote discrepancies, and the allegations of improper conduct by Fulton County election staff, the grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek indictments against the following individuals. Wow, Jackie, they nailed you. Sorry about that. Sorry, not sorry. Hadn't heard of these people. Jackie, Robert, William. Upon further consideration, in the same connection, we recommend Ray Smith, John Eastman, Scott Hall. Is John Eastman's thing happening again today? I really fucking missed it yesterday. Yesterday was a shit show of kitchen disaster, exploding waters. I had the fucking Bellagio fountains in my fucking kitchen yesterday, and it took me all night to clean it up. I granted I move really slowly, and I'm really not that fast. I was definitely not wanting to do it. Okay, so Ray, John, and Scott, 18 yes, 17 yes, really bad. With the respect to the harassment of Ruby Freeman, the grand jury recommends the district attorney seek indictments of the following persons: Trevion, Harrison Floyd, and Stephen Lee. Was Stephen Lee indicted? Does anyone recall? Bye, Tom. Yeah, I know, Tom. Oh, the King's Doctor sucks? Oh, no. It's terrible. Oh. Well, I didn't get the last booster because I was watching too much right-wing media, but other than that, okay. Sorry. I'm going to have to like take a break and get some coffee. Okay, here we go. What am I saying? Oh, okay. So yeah, those guys, I just don't know about Scott. Okay, Trevion, I don't know about Stephen either. Okay. With respect to the gathering of Republican electors at the Georgia State Capitol on December 14th, 2020, and the representations made by, as well as documents submitted by that body, the grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek indictments of the following persons, including the votes. Clitta, 18 yes, 1 no. Robert, 20. Ray, 17. Kurt, 17. Alex, 18. John Eastman, 20. Kenneth, cheese, bro. That's not your cheese, bro. He had 22. David Schaefer had 20. Here's the alternate slate. Oh, boy. They all got 19 yeses. Joseph and Vicky, Carolyn and Bert, Gloria and Mark and John and Kathleen, Brad and Sean, but don't forget about CB. That was that. Okay, they got lots of shit. Okay, but I don't even think were any of them charged. I mean, were they? With respect to the post-November 2020 election events that took place in Coffee County, including access by unauthorized persons to county voting machines and the data contained therein, the grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek indictments of the following persons: Kathy Latham, Misty Hampton, Scott Hall, Sidney Powell. I think all of them are 21, 21, 18, and 18 on the yeses. With respect to the national effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election focused on efforts in Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and the District of Columbia, the grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek indictments of the following persons, including their votes. We'll go over that in a minute. With respect to the inclusion of the election statutes, the 3 dissenting grand jurors do not believe that the wording of the statutes applies to the conduct at issue. One of the dissenting jurors voting against recommending seeking indictments of former Senators Perdue and Loeffler on a RICO claim believes that their statements following the November 2020 election, while pandering to their political base, do not give rise to their being guilty of a criminal conspiracy. Oh, so they were only there because of their statements made? No actions? Gus, what do you think? Did you hear the cat? It is. It's terribly insidious, and it does work. It does work. So yeah, it's fine. It's all clean now. Siegfried, I have several relatives in healthcare and tried. Yeah, I know. It is for the best. It is for the best. Everybody just be safe. I don't want anyone to get sick. Although I will say Paxlovid worked like a fucking miracle. Okay. So we had all these people. This was, what was this? The list of? I even forgot. Respect to the efforts to national efforts. Oh, this is national efforts. Oh, okay. So this is an interesting list. Rudy and John, there is old Kenny, but number 4 is Donald Trump. He's going to be mad he wasn't number 1. And then Clitta and Jenna and Marky Mark and David. There's Ray. Hey, Linwood. Hey, Lindsey Graham. 13 yes. 7 no. Sidney Powell, Robert, and Michael. Who's this? I want to know this person. William and David. It's probably Joe Flynn. Kelly and Kathleen, Misty and Scott. Boris. Come on now. Come on, girl. And little Jeff. Boxers, not briefs. We all know now. And there's Kurt and Steven and Trevion and Harrison and Alex. We got Joseph and Vicky comes in again with Carolyn and Bert and Gloria not far behind, and Mark who always get confused, but not when people are voting. John and Brad hate Sean. And there's old CB. Sorry, that was the ballad of the electors. Yes, Orange County voted no mask or vax mandates. Yeah. Ginny is not in there. I have not seen Madam Ginny. Ginny is not in here. I don't think. Well, she probably didn't have anything to do with Georgia. I mean, maybe. I don't know. A majority of the grand jury believes that perjury may have been committed by one or more witnesses testifying before it. The grand jury recommends that the district attorney seek appropriate indictments for such crimes where the evidence is compelling. But we're not going to tell you what it is. Boo boo. The grand jury wishes to acknowledge. Okay, blah 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 blah. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is the so these are the statutes: criminal solicitation, conspiracy to commit a crime. Oh, these are all pretty bad. RICO. I mean, I don't know if you guys want me to read these. I doubt you do. But, I'll put a link. Oh, wait. Let me put a link to the document again in the chat so you have it. Ironically, I moved to Florida for my health, and here I am. Yeah, how about the Publix heiress? That's a good one. How about the Publix heiress? What about that? I'll pin that. What about that? Dumb. That's dumb. Florida is way too expensive and not very resilient for climate change. Yeah, I know. We're all gonna die. Okay, so this is that and the other thing, and then marijuana in violation of subsection. What? Somebody had marijuana. Prohibited activities. But see, the thing is this isn't. I need specifics. I want to know what you know. Wow, this is all the shit. Look, it's like the grand jury summary report is shorter than the attachments of the codes that were violated. Before its dissolution, the special purpose grand jury voted to recommend that the special purpose grand jury final report be published. Did they? Okay, can I just say this? Can I ask this? And maybe somebody knows the answer to this question. Can I ask this question? Oh my God, Siegfried, this is so boring. malaria, leprosy, and flesh-eating. Oh my God, Siegfried. So here's the thing. Okay, so they signed, the grand jury said we agree to release the report. Would it have been disclosed to them that as part of the report would be their names and addresses? Would that have been part of the disclosure? Anybody know that? I don't know. I have so much. I have a lot. I have a lot. I have a lot. Okay. Here's the thing. I want to get into the meat of the matter. Why I brought you all here today. Let me tell you why I brought you here today. Here we go. I am really hoping that I do not crush this it is required by Georgia law. Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I guess what I'm wondering is, did they know? Did they know that that would be? And I'm assuming yes. I'm not assuming no, but I'm just like, because I might have said something like, "Oh, please don't do that." A couple of spots in Florida. I know. I lived in Fort Pierce and I lived in Fort Lauderdale. I lived in Florida for a couple of years. Oh, no, a year, maybe a year and a half. No, yeah, year and a half. Oh, seems like longer, but anyway, I lived on a boat. I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna crush it. I don't want to crush it. The other thing I brought up is that I have the actual pamphlet pictures of this 5GW. So I'll probably I don't know. I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to jump in. Fuck it. And then I do want to look at the Alex Jones. I guess he was on Alex Jones yesterday, which I think I did see part of it. But anyway, doesn't matter. All right. Here we go. Oh, I love this so much. Please, I really am sincerely apologizing ahead of time if I don't do this justice, and I will take all of the slings and arrows if I don't do it justice. So let me just see if I can move this to a new window and then do this. Can I do this? Oh, there we go. Yeah. You've been there for 15 years? That's a long. Oh my God, I love living on a boat. We could talk about that for quite a few hours. Okay. So actually, let me show you first what we're talking about here, because let's see here. Wait, I'll go back to that in a second. Hold on. Let me just show you what we're talking about here. Where is it? Oh, wait, I got to pull it up. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hi, Muskie. Yeah, really, smoke a lot of weed, please. And just know that I am really trying. I'm trying very hard. So just know that. Okay, hold on. Let me pull up this thing first. And let me flip it and reverse it. Okay. All right. Thumbnails. I need to select all. I'm so sorry, everyone. Please bear with me. Okay, wait. Unselect that one. Okay. All right. So, okay. Hold on. I'm coming back. I'm a little slow. I'm a little slow, but here's what we're talking about, so that there's a little bit of context before we jump into a much more intelligent assessment of this piece of shit. Okay. So, oh, Asheville. I like Asheville. Okay. All right. So actually, I love Blowing Rock. Have you ever been to Blowing Rock, Siegfried? I love Blowing Rock so much. I would move there in a heartbeat. But anyway, here we go. Okay. So this is Mike Flynn and Boone Cutler, who is his, I don't know. His what is that? Mozart and what who are the people that write together? Gilbert and Sullivan. Okay, let's do this. Gilbert and Sullivan. Yeah. Well, okay. Actually, analysis in making fun of it. How about that? You're mocking of it? Is that? Yeah. Anyway, it's not. It's just a fun way to go through. It's a much more palatable way to go through this fucking, because you can see now what we're dealing with. Okay, so let's just talk about what is well, actually, I should go to some of the I should go to the oh shit. Let me go to the oh, fuck. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm a little high. I mean, I'm not quite high enough, but I'm kind of high. Okay. I want to go to the table of contents. His Girl Friday. Yes, His Girl Friday. There you go. That's right. There you go. Okay, here we go. Wait. I want to wait. I know. I'm going to do this other one. Hold on. Oh, shit. Okay, hold on. Wait. Hold on. I want to show you guys the fucking chapter of contents because it's amazing. Wait. Where is it? Oh. Criticism can be analysis. Yeah, totally. Okay, let's see here. I want citizens. Oops. Oh my God. Where is it? You ever have that thing where you had all the thing, but then you didn't have the thing anymore and you didn't have the thing? Yeah, that's right. That's what I said. Okay, here we go. Okay, table of contents. This is what I want. All right. So sorry. Just bear with me. Okay, and then I'm going to flip them because they're like we got pictures of them. We don't have the actual, yeah. Nobody, I mean, we only were able to procure, and we wanted to only procure one copy and share it so that nobody was giving money to bad people. So anyway, here we go. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be a lot more organized in just a second. Okay. So this is the book. This is the book. Okay? And it's called The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. This book is available on Amazon. Okay? And it was published in 2022. So it's not an old document. It's not I wish we, the old days, right? Here we go. Here's all the terms. Here's all the terms about the different types of warfare. Cognitive battle space and terrain. Interesting. Nation states. Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong. Blah, blah, blah. This is for everybody. It's for everybody in the flyover states. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Your neighbor is not your enemy. Ambiguity and randomness. Avoid the suck. I'm taking my time. Your fear is justified. Two-stage communist revolution, the Great Reset, with a tour by the same name. Stuck in the middle, uniparty. We should have bingo for this, right? Like there should be a bingo of terms. America First representatives defined. What it means to be an America First representative. It's a real stocking stuffer. I know nobody wants to give them money. Oh, don't do it, Siegfried. We've got it. Let's see. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Oh my God. See a cat, paint a tiger. Weaponizing human nature. It's just a fun little book for you to give your parents. Protect your mind. Control your emotions. Take a little break and do some homework. Battlefield preparation, manipulation, and decision dominance. How to make people kill people. Huh? What? 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 Fred, 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 have you seen this part of the book yet? Fred? Fred? It has homework. Fred, have you seen this book? It's terrible. It's not too late to resist. They walk among us. Hey, Lithuania empowered their citizens. Know your physical and cognitive environment. Can you see these people running around? Yeah, isn't that bad, Barnes and Noble? I mean, we are at war. Something you can do now. I can't wait. We're not going through this, by the way. This is why we have oomph to help us. He did it, so we don't have to. So, bots and censorship. Bots and censorship. The Chinese Communist Party, the global offensive. Elements of unrestricted. Legal warfare, his favorite. How to neutralize the gray zone funnel. Shadowy government destabilization strategies. How to get your boss to wash your car. Oh yeah, there is some serious trauma porn. How to manipulate your 0-hour home activity into everyday wobbles. I bought it, but I'm in the process of doing it. It tells people how to kill. Isn't that bad? I love you guys so much. You guys are you are the real comedians, not me. Okay, wait, where am I? Okay, wait, let me go back. Oh my God. You guys are so funny. Okay, let's see here. Sustainable living, prepping. Scapegoats created are the people standing in the way. Oh, okay. Well, so anytime anyone is, anytime anyone is like held accountable for their actions, they're just a scapegoat and they're standing in the way. So there you go. What's your problem? All right. And then chapter 9, the flies must conquer the fly paper. Wow. Wow. A time for mental toughness. Manage your mind. Dominate your physical domain. Be a bro. Work out. Rules for victory. The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare is designed to educate the public on a form of warfare currently being waged against all of us, Americans and other freedom-loving nations around the world. In warfare, there are opposing sides, and in fifth generation warfare, identifying the adversaries is even more difficult due to the nature of the war itself. Fifth generation warfare is best defined as a war of narratives. This Citizen's Guide teaches how to break through the many narratives imposed on society today by giving you new narratives. By an overreaching federal government, an out-of-control security state of weaponized media, and corporate and social media titans, everyone except for us. What's NROL? Oh gosh, I don't even know what that is. Yeah, he figured this out. He figured out who his audience was. He figured out he was watching the whole time. All right, so now we are gonna go to this. So, given that little bit of context, now you can enjoy a humorous traipse through and it's going to take me a minute because there's a lot of tweets. So just rest, relax, sit back, and I'll try to do justice rather to this thread. Okay? Okay. National Reconnaissance Office. Oh, I don't even know what that is. Yeah. Hello. Or where they go one, they go, wait a minute. Which is how you're supposed to say my name on Twitter. Where we go one, we go, wait a minute. So just so you know. All right. Okay, let's get into it. Can you tell I'm scared? Can you tell? Okay. Oh wait, where's my oh, it's because I did that. I know why it is. I know why that is. Oh, I just closed it. God damn it. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I just hit the wrong button. God damn. Why do you guys even like me? I don't even know why you like me. Oops. I don't know why you like me. But I'm glad you do. Okay, whoops. Oh. Technology is not our friend. Sometimes it's not our friend. Sometimes it's not our friend. Now it'll be nice and big. Everybody can see it. Blur, blur, blur. I'm so sorry. What if you read it and it makes us all do things? You aren't going to do anything. Don't worry. No, Oomph would never do. He's very good at keeping it real. We should do this. Well, I don't think it's actually going to give you much inspiration to do anything. So, but if you want to do things like hit that like button, that's nice. I would like that. Okay. All righty. Here we go. Oh, wait, I'm going to do this. Move tab to a new window so that I can see the amazing shitty chat as I'm doing this. Okay. It does not inspire. Delighted anticipation of the ensuing read to see the marketing pitch about the general's precise craftsmanship of this powerful tool every home should have to defend ourselves. No. Nations Against Global New World Orderism, which is probably also trans and woke. From the author of Rules for Defeating Radicals, Countering the Alinsky Strategy in Politics and Culture, who, if you haven't heard of him, is certainly old enough to know of Alinsky and good enough at countering the strategy that a book, nay, his book, and now the general's too. He's talking about Boone Cutler. Oh, and if I read wrong, it's not anyone's fault but my own. On the flyleaf opposite a clock made of QR codes, but Adamo says the book will probably equip me to understand and effectively engage the enemy. Why a clock, I wonder? More likely, I should already know, recognize Adoba's authority and be furious that his perfect strategy hasn't already vanquished the blurb enemy. It further does not inspire delighted anticipation to note that the center justified 150-ish word block of blurbiage above the credit identifying Adorno and his relation to the book he wrote as the source is inside quotation marks. Standing here right now in the aisle at a mainstream, totally thriving brick-and-mortar book retail emporium where actual humans buy books in real life, next to the staff picks display, I realize Adosto may not be reliable. I should sit on that oddly situated solitary wooden chair, which, as being also an absolutely human, real human with experience of such things, reader, you know, book retail emporia distribute among their odd angles and displays for people who could afford to sit elsewhere but don't. Right over there. And ever so carefully preventing my phone from seeing those QR codes, opening this enticing volume up just a crack to see what this book, this unreliable Alinsky guy is raving about, really has to offer. Hey, this was written by a sergeant and a general. Guess I've seen enough academia and C-suite business and other bureaucratic orgs that in itself is not outrageous. Still, blurb on flyleaf by Alinsky isn't the first time I should be hearing a sergeant wrote the general's book. I watched a video interview from the Hoover Institute. Oh, yeah, the Hoover Institute. Yeah. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The book is square. It is not sure if it wants to be on a coffee table or on a desk. It likes the display rack on the graduated table shelf of Book Retail Emporium, leaning back at ease, the hours of the QR clock reaching out for connected optical devices. But it knows that it wants to lie open at ease for the leisurely read for speed and operational utility. Its individual pages may be teased by breezes there under the camo netting at the neighborhood watch substation on the corner. I'm gonna really try. Opens to TOC. Uh-oh. Looks modular. Chapter 1. Hyphenated subsections stretch down the page like a very modular list of hyphenated subsections indeed. It looks like one of those get up to speed on computering books from the 90s with contempty automobile owner's manual design principles. Hi, Michael. Aw, first week of school. Yay. Thanks for coming to my critical reading of the Traitor General Flynn's Sergeant's book about, well, I don't know what it's about yet. I'm given to expect something like a revanchus cookbook, but I'm uncertain if I'm using that word right or the pun conveys. It's probably my delivery. That's our time for today. Like, share, and subscribe. Piddle you ashcaps into my abominable patronium. Make sure to osculate that delayed gratification knob and join us next time when we hope to see the words the General Sergeants used to title Chapter 1 and describe its subsections. If lucky, we might have time to mock the anticipated continued modularity and design principles of the rest of the table of contents, Chapter 2, and all the way through 1984 into the 1,000-year reign of Check's blurbs. Our values. Oh, he did? Oh my gosh. I guess I'm just old-fashioned. I was hoping that children still went to school after Labor Day, but they don't. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Oops. Okay. I think this is going to do it. I lied. There will be a preface. It is ahead. It is ahead of Chapter 1, which is titled Important Terms to Know and Remember, and appears to define one term per page for 26 pages. And there is Chapter 1 homework, but it has no page number. You know what? I'm going to scroll a bit ahead just to see if there are numbered pages and whether they relate to the hyphenated chapters, subheading, enumerations in an incautious reader might mistake for page numbers. Okay, good news. There are no page numbers. Top of page identifies session, bottom of page chapter, but at least as to Chapter 1, which Chapter 1 page you are on, is immaterial because the subsection title and hyphenated enumeration are apparent on every page, sometimes more than one. Preface and Chapter 1 both described at top of each page as within Session 1 of the General Sergeant's book title. Quick scan of the preface does not reveal explanation for session organization, but it sounds pretty classy. And I'm just going to call it of the General Sergeant's book title of the book. I'll do that so I don't screw that up and slow us down. Okay. Classy. We'll ease into our study of how to use that scary technology now transformed by the General Sergeant's addition of W into the principles of psychological warfare mastery, of which will allow me to prevail the enemy of my neighbors in a session and another session. Pizzagate. And eventually, with enough 5G warriors and enough sequences of sessions, boom, secession. Seriously, go home. The show is over. We'll recommence again. Hopefully, I'll read more than I write or have read first. Meantime, subscribe to the General Sergeant's College Roommates Funny Friends TikTok and find all my wishes at the bottom of this very difficult will. Tip your ocean researchers and trolls. Oh my God, I haven't read this in a long time. It's funny. Okay. And I just want to thank Boom for organizing this for me and making it easy. I really appreciate it. Oh shit, now I'm at risk of causing a Frankenstein mess of inter and trans-referencing nested Matryoshka tweet storm threadlet shaking hands with itself from the future. Shakes fist in every direction, several occupied at this proximity by somewhat bruised self. But I only wanted to say that I'm both pleased and troubled that what I should do about those important terms comprising Chapter 1 is both know the important terms and remember the important terms. Tried to tell an 8-year-old of my acquaintance the other day of context-free line I think is attributed to Plato to the effect of all learning is remembering. 8-year-old and I both know this isn't true. A lot of effort put into learning things not remembered, remembering things not learned, and that it is true. Those things we have learned are things we don't have to try to remember because we simply do. Also, maybe really superficial insight as above. Knowing is remembering, perhaps deeply mystical. Learning is the erasure of forgetting or forgottenness. Kid humored me, permitted me to explain that Plato used the line, if he did, in the course of careful discussion of other things, and maybe didn't mean any of the things that we had conjectured, without pointing out we had been engaged in careful discourse of the tying of shoes. So that the recent intergenerational communication, plus some in the other direction with parties who don't remember things that they know, and don't know things that they remember sometimes, got me generous toward the general sergeant's probably mere redundancy. I hope that the writer, whoever they may actually have been, expresses a reason for it and that it is interesting. Thinks of usefulness of unknown unknowns concept before war criminal Rumfeld perpetual deprecation. And hope it is expressed in bagman tactical verbiage. Like proper planning prevents piss poor performance, sir. Or the enemy cannot push a button if you disable his hand. Medic! Or deploying C N+1 technical capabilities to empower the 21st century warfighter to enjoy a tactical awareness and domination of the new battle space is a true army of one. Crunchy guitar pedal, Phrygian mode. I wish I could do this justice. I'm so sorry. Which I just made up, unable, it turns out, to recall war criminal Rumsfeld's precise, pompous, and messianic verbiage. Reinventing warfare, I think. So with all the C's always bring added to those first two C's and this dim memory of Rumsfeldian grandiosity. I'm so far unimpressed by every grasping implication of that abbreviation, as noted, just blunted by the W from panic triggering signifier of New World Order mind control and prol-culling microchip bot microwave signaling system brought to you by the good people at Soros. And don't expect much of the general sergeant, particularly now recalling that the other national is comforting W and that the nominal author attained his August rank as Rumsfeldian administrator. Strong on evil arrogance, evidently not so much on administration. But what the fuck do I know? I've now read the table of contents up to its entry for chapter 1, and I've already written more words and better than there are in chapter 1. Oh, boom! Boom! I love it. Okay. Okay. Us, Americans, and other freedom-loving nations around the world. This isn't even a chapter 1 important term I should know and remember, but identification of one side currently engaged in a war from the preface. Oh shit, important note. The pithy quotation at the head of the preface is the title of a 1970 Funkadelic album, Free Your Mind, and Your Ass Will Follow. Because, of course, the general has always been down with the psychedelic funk and trying to get us hip to the mothership. Guess the whole citizen on citizen 5G slugfest this book will teach us to love doing is better sold with the aspirational freedom of their second rather than the more forthright and fitting for this project title of their fourth album, America Eats Its Young. Yes, I want to read through this. It's the best way to approach Flynn's propaganda. Probably by third edition, they'll be ready to swap those album title. For now, there's radicalizing to be done. Still haven't completed. Americans are people, not certain freedom-loving nations is even possible thing. Nations almost certainly lacking required psychocognitive apparatus. But even as a figment, freedom-loving should be hyphenated. Hey, take one from the module enumerations. Is it telling that the United States is not described as a freedom-loving nation, though it's mostly oppressor-loving citizens, target customers? We'll be sure they're so described. Jen. Nations around the world, however, only matter instrumentally. Their people, if any, are immaterial. Having established the us, preface points out that wars have opponents, and a distinguishing feature of 5G war, which will be defined in chapter 1 if we get there, is that its very nature makes identifying adversaries even more difficult. While a whole module defining the important term will appear in chapter 1, a second paragraph of preface states, fifth generation warfare is best defined as a war of narratives. Emphasis mine, considering most authors write prefaces like they want me to continue through to chapter 1. If the next few preface graphs offer succinct best definitions of the other 25 important terms too, I'll probably stop reading. This book, preface paragraph 2, teaches how to break through the many narratives imposed on society today. There follows a list of imposers of the narrative. I will elide the objectives because they are scary. Federal government, security state, media, titans. Omitted scary adjectives include out of control, terror ameliorated modestly by prim hyphens. Social media, sick, modifying the noun titans, wants hyphens, terror stirs again. Overreaching, corporate, weaponized. Titan was a good choice because it does its work without depending on adjectives. Corporate and social media as modifiers do not augment Titan's inherent danger, but exclude those Titans not described as corporate or social media, if any. Pays no attention to any other Titans, if any. So I think though paragraph 1 says adversaries especially hard to identify in 5G, paragraph 2 says it's a war of narratives and lists the parties imposing narratives on we Americans and freedom-loving nations who are us. All that remains is to teach us how. How, Sergeant Cutler? How can a freedom-loving nation around the world, like me, break through the many titans federal government's narratives, General? How? How? For Americans, the General Sergeant. Which reminds me of a story. Oh my gosh. I know, I hear the plane. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. If I go hard, hyperbolic, outrageous, ridicule in every sentence as I read it, we'll never get through this preface. I'm doing this because I understand serious people with serious concerns for the union rate this publication as a disturbing and dangerous step in its purveyor's plan to attain double plus good fascism pronto. And I'm a compulsive reader with some of the books this general would like his sergeant's pamphlet to nestle among on grim and serious shelves of the future already read. And I am ridiculous, particularly of the ridiculous, which fill the sensorium and this pamphlet. Anyway, 2 paragraphs into preface, not immediately panicking about the general writing the warfighting manual for MAGA ISIS, but do want to fairly read for evaluation of aforementioned concern, and this phrase level prescription ridicule, delightful as may be, inhibiting that. So I'll be back after I read somewhat more than the next vague phrase, hopefully still ridiculous and perhaps ridiculously still hopeful. Reads Twitter instead. Understand very complex stuff in simplest possible terms, the dynamic battle space upon which we are operating. Oh, you didn't know you inhabit and operate upon a dynamic battle space at war? Yes, war that is real. Worse, it is very real. This book simply exists, a blue guitar of things as they are, a bundle of love poems for dictators, a balloonman whistling. But if you read it, you'll gain a far deeper understanding of all things circumscribed witching this idea we're pitching. Its terms, see chapter 1, its principles, conjectures as to who may be the enemy and how are they arrayed to oppose our way of life. Hey, my neighbors probably aren't the enemy. That's a relief. Nope, it's the shadowy government that's manipulating me to hate another or others. Couple good paragraphs of evangelical mission for this pamphlet, which, when heard in all nations, will empower the mass of people worldwide to take back liberty for themselves. Damn it. I'll do like musical interludes. Boom, boom. Non sequiturs about. And that. Oh my God. Got me. You got me. All right, here we go. The enemy, globalist oppressors who are trying to strip us of our individual national identities and the most basic human rights, must be met by the mass of people worldwide, citizens worldwide, or all people properly organized and prepared, because you gotta fight globalism with globalism. I was pretty sure who was us just a few paragraphs ago when the sergeant told me, now I'm a self-hating globalist, planning to communist uprising to save me from the people who make TVs from China, arrive by tomorrow and fill them with sound and light. Or save you, rather. I'm a freedom-loving nation around the world. 'Tis written as such. My individual national identity is all I've got. Not sure what Americans worry about, but that their national identity is, almost entirely, resistance to having national identity stripped. Okay, there's some crazy shit. If we lose, we will all live or die at the command of one rich king with an invisible hand. I don't know, which song is that? Is that a song I should know? I'm so sorry. If we lose, we will. Invisible hand, no less. The plan of the oppressors is to create, is that, we should put that to music. The plan of the oppressors is to create a defenseless people in borderless countries who have limited or non-existent parental rights. Wow. Almost like he constructed that one. Right after that, we are reminded this guide will help us think clearly about upsetting things without unnecessary and confusing emotions. And a right justified quotation from assassinated civil rights activist Malcolm X. Here follow a couple of paragraphs of categories of people conversant with 5G considerations and those many other categories of influential person who are unaware. Here Mags wrestles the Mag Americans, if you know, you know. Here, Mag Americans, wrestles the pen away from Cutler and writes, if that is the right word, the last paragraph. If you know, challenge and inform leaders and purveyors of information to gain a better understanding of what we're facing from overreaching government. LOL. Wait, very next sentence. In that manner, we can inform them as to why they feel like something isn't quite right and why that feeling is difficult to identify. In the challenge and inform to gain better understanding manner, and close with General McChrystal quotation, just like Sun Tzu did in his preface. Yay, on to do, 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 do. I don't know. Do. The preface offers no explanation of session 1 title facing page header, which persists into this is me. I can't get through the bios. I'm such a wait, did you do something else? I'm like the name a dumb sidekick. Just name a dumb sidekick. Stop it. It is not. It's me. It seemed like whoever was tasked with writing that preface, they took one board pass at it and later came back and without rereading added that last paragraph and called it done. I bet this whole book reads better in its original formatting as a bunch of PowerPoint slides. Pinky, yeah. I'm like it's like Pinky in the Brain. It's Pinky in the Brain. Oh, god damn. I'm so sorry. Oh. Oomp is like, why'd I agree to let her do this? Oh, is Pinky not dumb? Is the brain dumb? One is a genius and the other's insane. Okay, I'm not the genius. And it's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm all right. Pinky's a goddamn savant. Okay. Well, maybe that's what I am. Chapter 1, important terms to know and remember. 5th generation warfare is a reference term for the historic times we face, coming after boomer and preceding millennial. We face a time when the advancement of war has landed us squarely in 5th generation warfare. Oh, you know what I'm about to do. You know what I'm about to do. Whiners with giners. What are we going to do today, brain? Volume 2 might be even more volume. When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, and war will run up his butt, and Flynn will be yoinked. This is the dawning of the age of justice. Age of justice. Oh, yes, very good film. Summer of Soul. Very good film. Very good. Very good. All caps. Manipulation of thoughts and attitudes without people's awareness. LOL. The new science of advertising sent a telegram of protest from the World's Fair. Stop. All right, hold on. I need to take 1 little minute break. My dog needs me. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Okay, you need to get a light or something for the doors of the knock. I know, right? Like, can he not pay attention? Hi, Kathy. Yeah, can he not pay attention? My dog is fucking needy. He's a needy dog. Okay, here we go. What's NB? What's NB mean? The Black Iron Prison never ended. Editor's note. Look out for the overlapping aspects of hybrid, irregular, and unrestricted warfare we're about to enumerate. This one's fun. Is that 3 kinds of warfare or a multifaceted war that is hybrid, irregular, and unrestricted? Know from this point forward, whatever you may see or hear, it is all a part of the global, God, nota bene. Okay, thank you. Manichean struggle in which we have ever been engaged. But that now, importantly, I tell you, we are calling Fetchwar this decade. Now, Fetchwar, this is the moment Fetchwar was invented. Okay. Calvalrest, also known as meat learning, invented the term Fetchwar. So you found it here first. There it is. There's the first hashtag of Fetchwar. Teehee, the general's still trying to make fetch happen. 5GW happen. It's the best. Chills. It was. This is a momentous occasion. You're seeing the first incidents of Fetchwar. We better like it. Okay. Momentous. Boy, strap in, kids. We got some stuff, man. This man went through this thing. He went through this for us. All right, here we go. Fetchwar, N+1. Fuck you. Hybrid warfare, irregular warfare, and unrestricted warfare are the next 3 important terms. Apart from everything, what they have in common is occurrence in gray zone conflicts. Maybe that phrase will reappear, dare I hope, were it an important term too. Text would say so. Dear reader, the gray zone will be the 6th important term, editor. Still not to chapter 1. Hybrid either blends with or may include irregular warfare by non-state actors, while irregular, doing all the hybrid too, focuses primarily on use of non-state actors conducting covert military actions. Unrestricted warfare has no bounds. I cannot tell if it says everybody does covert influence so because Chinese communists first did it so, or that Chinese communists do it so, look out. Appears to be pasted from another document without much attention to edges and flow. Elements, network corruption, legal exploitation, and economic manipulation. I'm going to go ahead and call bullshit on Chinese communists first developing those strategies. Don't want to buy anything or sell anything or process anything. I don't want to buy anything or sold or process, sell it or process, sell anything bought or processed or process anything bought or sold or processed. So for now, I'm hanging with your daughter. The important thing to know about important term generations of warfare is that with each advancement of technology or tactic also comes the advancement of warfare. Gazes fiercely at horizon while echoing words. The important thing to know is that notwithstanding the lack of consensus as to which generation evolved when or what numbers even are, this list ends at 5th generation warfare because it is where when we are a fighting such war. This list of how one, say the general or his sergeant, for example, might describe the passage of generations includes some potent verbiage defining Fetchwar that somehow did not appear in that important terms module just pages ago in this very session. To wit, Fetchwar evolved when aforementioned hyper-restricted aspects became directed at societies to affect the cognitive battle space. The belief system of civilians and other target audiences that equaled more value than just the geography or ideology of a nation or its leaders. Dear reader, I think something went wrong in the cognitive battle space that generated that indefinition because trying to make it make meaning is rousing the rabbles in my own cognitive battle space. But the belief system, singular, of civilians and other target audiences implies something almost mystical. Tries very hard not to recall time when product of CDC accepted as fair and honest statement of scientific knowledge in public health context. Probably never again, this mind. Civilians and other target audiences rings a bell. appears to resonate with unfortunate phrase, the consumer and other adversaries. From among the leaked documents concerning intentional undermining of encryption standards circa 2013, cannot immediately put hand to source. Anyway, that's all we have time for tonight. Join us again anon for more, or less, or other, or yes, or la 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 la, and no 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 no. Dee 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 dee. Dee 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 dee. Fetchwar, important term. The gray zone is a contested arena somewhere between routine diplomatic activity and outright war. Now I understand. There is this thing, treaty framework of international law, which sets and refers to some pretty clear landmarks in this zone. Oops. Fingers don't work. Now, this pamphlet, if for all freedom-loving persons and nations like me around the world, ostensibly, is for all, sorry. But the sources and mechanisms of international law are the wrong kind of globalists, so we'll stay mum on that. Weird then, the general sergeants would choose the British spelling of the word, indicating the color of the zone, rather than the American spelling. Here, in the gray zone, built on existing military strategies, AI, infotech, social media platforms, and influencers have created radicalized new spaces. Oh, well, we know about those, don't we? Worse, such radicalized new spaces have expanded what was impossible only a decade ago. What was impossible 10 years ago is now bigger thanks to AI influencers being existing military strategies short of war. PSYOP is the next important term, and you know it's going to be good when the sentence starts out. Psychological operations. PSYOP are operations. Important term, target audience, is a US DoD term for a group selected for PSYOP influence or attack. Groups can be based on anything that lumps people into a group, for example, regional area. Right now, someone somewhere is assessing you as a target and figuring out how to influence your thoughts, behavior, and actions. That's a quote. Yes, you, the fat one. Telegrams from the modern science of advertising are coming in pretty steadily now. Every click, every search, every hashtag Fetchwar, and every response you type on a machine hooked to the internet is a factor that develops a matrix for how best to manipulate you worldwide. And here's a lyric from Post Malone. I don't like Post Malone. He is auto-tuned all the time, and I can't listen to him. Is that problematic? Do you have a grievance? Tell your handler who collects impact indicators to assess how well PSYOP works, or click hashtag type in connected machine. PSYACts are occurrences affecting the target audiences. Whether planned or natural events, they are implemented, maneuvered to affect a specific target audience to support a PSYOP plan. Do you think these assholes actually consider to the propositions they utter here? One more. Important term 10. Cognitive battle space. Way too much auto-tune. Thank you, Kathy. Cognitive battle space terrain is a war for information as it is transformed into knowledge via the processes of cognition. Sure about that? Was Agincourt a war? What were some notable battles of that war? Prior to transforming this information into knowledge via cognitive processes, I would have mistakenly believed a battle space terrain to be that location where over control of which a battle occurs as some part of a war. Probably the communists are to blame for my mistaken beliefs concerning what words may mean or mustn't. Fetchwar threat item. That's a good one. That's a good one. Flip of 0. Less than 0. I never saw that movie. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Next 3 important terms: state and non-state actors, shadow government, nation states. Each is disturbing in its own way and misinforming. Nation state and next term monolithic really showcase the author's difficulty with parts of speech. Phantom, they abound. Important term 1 to 14, monolithic. A system or structure too large, too regular, or without interesting differences that is unwilling or unable to be changed. Monolithic. I love that movie. That movie's crazy. Stay tuned for important term 15, Karl Marx, a verb. These are all funny. I could mark them all, but then he'd get a bunch of notifications and it would be annoying. I don't want to fill people's notifications. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. This is so great. The general and his sergeant and anyone serving in an editorial capacity between them and publication of this self-contradictory and often incoherent document should be ashamed, though bad writing is probably minor among their offenses. Hell, I bet Jersey Ray's plagiarized survival manual reads better than this. If you know, you know. Nothing of Mag Americans reads better. Did I answer? I think I might have answered this. No. Who's JJ? XJ. That's funny. Okay, that's funny. Hold on, let me get the next. I wish this would, oh man, this needs to be like all one. I'm gonna put this into all one thing. We're gonna need to get some technicals on that monolithic and a string wall. Oops, that's what I said. Hopefully the technicals, once deployed, maneuvered to the battle space terrain where they have always known themselves to be anyway, will string wall the shit out of that monolithic. Then we'll see how it feels about being changed. Oh my God. Oh, the good old days of reading Fetchwar. Okay, here we go. Oops. Marcy Wheeler. Oh, yes. Writes better and more informatively about Fetchwar in one unfan tweet than the general sergeant. So that's Empty Wheel. You guys, I'm sure everyone on this chat knows Empty Wheel. Oh, no. I know. No, I know you tried. And it's a lot because it went over a long period of time too. So no, this is fun. Are you kidding me? The way that you organized the list is so helpful. It's not even funny. Fetchwar important terms. Karl Marx was often treated as a revolutionary instead of communist regime inspiring philosopher. Vladimir Lenin gets no birthplace. Joseph Stalin is lovingly described as an enviably organized and effective statesman. Got me worried about a Hitler entry. Mao Zedong was born in South Central, which gets capitalized. Chinese communism, enough said. Marxism, Leninism, communism, socialism, capitalism, fascism, entries made me dumber. Uniparty, Vanguard Party, country first. Hey, that's all 26 important terms. Hitler wasn't one of them. Time for homework. Chapter 2, continuing session 1, opens with a long passage from President Kennedy, described as Assassinated American President, and is titled The Big Game and a Few of the Players. First section is bumper stickers. Oh, yes. Yes. There we go. Perfect. Wait, where am I now? Oops. Okay, wait, I'm back here. It's okay. Now I've got a system, Marie. I'm ridiculous. Okay. The big video. First section is bumper stickers. There's a quotation from a retired military war college type. Second reminds me that neighbor is not the enemy, but also spun up by a real adversary psyoping us from the internet. Stop now, and instead of relying on your emotional responses, follow what you personally know and can logically deduce to be true, which means don't actually get information. Just go with your gut. Go with your gut. Ambiguity and randomness are tenets of 5GW. Whoop. LOL. They should probably stop paying rent and force 5GW to evict them. This right after stating all actions are precipitated by thoughts, attitudes, and decisions. So maybe ambiguity in the appearance of randomness? Then, with approval, a passage from Colonel Mann's Totally Real 2015 Joint Forces Staff College thesis, starting off with a sentence fragment and followed by non sequiturs as far as I can tell. The U.S. military has increasingly gotten better at cyber psyops since 2015, the General Sergeant asserts. Are you awake yet? The entire cyber platform is corrupted, and it is a domain of war. Module 2 to 5. Your fear is justified. Whoops. Nope. That's your fear. The thing you're describing as incontrovertible fact, except you probably don't mean to state that you, my source of insight, are too dumb to figure it out, do you? Anyway, redundant. Did you know there are equally as many shadowy governments as governments, all leveraging useful idiots in prevailing conditions? Big quotation about executing the leftist useful idiots after the bring Marxist-Leninists to power from the man who used to be the Soviet KGB. The Uniparty is doing World Economic Forum Great Reset to get through two-stage communist revolution prescribed by Marxist-Leninists to New World Order. There is a flowchart. Whereas Module 2 to 5 just assured me that there are equally as many shadowy and normally illuminated governments, Module 2 to 7 says there are few, contrary to conspiracy theory suggesting just one. I butchered that, but it... We'll present it like a quotation by someone worth quoting, but here's the Conservapedia entry on Uniparty and a full-page graphic. America First Dems and Repubs can be recognized by their pro-alignment as to election, border, parental rights, medical rights, Bill of Rights, and defund Uniparty members issues. Long editorial. I probably should have noted back in important terms, the author took pains to distinguish America First, the tenant of 5GW, from any Nazi sympathizing business plot America First you may have heard of before. No relation at all. And another ahistorical editorial running on xenophobia rails. I mean, it just never, okay. So it never got old, apparently. I was probably a little behind in the GIF war, but okay. That's not unusual. All right. Me. In truth, they are puppets to the puppet masters who possess seen and unseen dangerous but powerful and uncompromising leverage and influence. Wow. Admittedly, some stories of shadow governments are beyond fictitious and are sensationalized to the point of fantasy, but not those we keep talking about and have presented as an important term to know and remember. Remember how the Uniparty and their shadowy government counterparts attacked President T. Nope? Yup. Hey, they get tenants right in modules 2 to 13, and the invisible hand turns out to be censoring, boosting social media posts. I have failed to note a quotation or two, but here comes Sapolsky on social affinity and then Goebbels on the big lie. Psychographics is how they get you. Quotation from Mirlu on totalitarian psychological war. Final module, protect your mind or else it will become their weapon. And close with a doomy couplet from War Pigs before the homework. We'll say this pamphlet is full of cognitive dissonance and bad writing and nonsense, misrepresentations, and dog whistles. It's really quite a horrible book, frankly. Fetchwar, Chapter 3, still Session 1, make ready. I was going to mock first clumsy sentence about my mind as a battle space, but then the critical nature of defense of your mind at the individual level cannot be understated, end quote. I should probably try to quote things, huh? So that it doesn't sound like we're just like, we don't believe, like whatever. Okay. LOL, please try to understate it. Maybe before media literacy or just literacy. Yeah, that's so true. Why not? Chapter 3 definitions of important terms like those in Chapter 2 differ from those offered in respective important terms dedicated Chapter 1 modules. Everything is a psyact or a psyop. It always has been, but it is more so now, and that should worry you patriots who love our way of life. Here's module 3.3. Sorry, I'm reading them wrong. How to make people kill people, with the graphic that has been bothering some others. Bet it was a mean slide in its native presentation. Exactly. So the book itself is a deep state fear psyop aimed at us, the people of the bomb, Cold War born Americans, to make us populistic. Yep, that's right, Rip. Here, an intro for modules on each of the 4 steps. Give me 3 steps, mister. Give me 3 steps towards the door. Give me 3 steps, mister, and I won't be here no more. It's a good song. Step 1, polarization. Polarized thinking, quote, polarized thinking in Fetchwar is the manufactured sense of life or death using messages, videos, or memes. Okay. Hyphens got me hoping for a noun. Apparently life or death is the noun. A, quote, natural physiological fight or flight response, end quote, soon turns out to be what must have been intended. Once that is done, the general sergeants claim a person is locked into confirmation bias. Step 2, tribalization. Parenthetically, is it telling that Autospell wants to rewrite tribalization as trivialization? Tribalization is self-segregation with a group. The moment, Quote, the moment you identify yourself with a group, whether by wearing a sports jersey of your favorite team, a hat that identifies your political views, or military or paramilitary uniform, you've tribalized yourself on some level, end quote. Clumsiness aside, there is something to that. There is a dog whistle I cannot parse in a comparison to antebellum tribalization that, surprisingly for presumed military fetishist author who has already capitalized South Central China, Mao's birth region, capitalizes neither North nor South. Step 3, dehumanization. Quote, people feel their tribe is the only tribe that deserves to live, end quote. Quote, you are being cognitively prepared to isolate and feel demonized by each other for the purpose of killing one another to divide the country and usher in a new political establishment. Oh, well, bingo. That's what he's trying to say. Quote, the process never changes and everybody does it, end quote. Hitler to the Jews, Andrew Jackson to the indigenous peoples, and Stalin to Ukrainians. Oh, and, quote, academia does it when they preach anti-nationalistic rhetoric, end quote. There's some good both sidesing in here among the everybody does it exemplars. Hi, Adriana. How are you doing? How are you feeling? We're just going through Oomp's tweets regarding Mike Flynn and Boone Cutler's book, Fifth Generation Warfare. Yeah. Hi. Warfighters, however, capitalized. This process, how warfighters are trained to kill, is now trained on all y'all, up in your social medias and libraries, grooming you for atrocities. Give me 3 steps, mister. Give me 3 steps towards the door. Give me 3 steps. Okay, brother. Fetchwar, module 3-8. People who bring about non-naturally occurring psi-acts are agents of action. They contribute either on purpose or not. Here is a horrifying war story to illustrate. No dehumanization here. And here is a terrible fantasy of a totally hypothetical and unlikely case of harm coming to an innocent via a firearm through only the negligence of a novice firearms owner, and how we all know the Uniparty will spin it. Yeah, I know. I hate it all again, too. And incidentally, how, if you haven't recognized these shadowy government Uniparty malefactors yet, you will now in the, again, extremely unlikely case some firearm owner's lack of perfection may lead to harm of another. And another war story. Yay, books, especially books that instruct a civilian population in insurgency. And homework. Chapter 4, know your physical and cognitive environment, starts with the definition, if later is indicated, of unconventional warfare from DoD Joint Publication 1-02. But I, a freedom-loving nation around the world, am on a break. Nice. Give me 3 steps, mister. Yeah, put it up on the screen. Maybe this book worth review just to calibrate for telltale jargon. Yeah, there you go. Let's looking at the bright side. Though got strong vibe, it started as a training presentation and hasn't been looked at close since, or aspires, poorly I think so far, to become a war college workbook. Alas, I bet the real publishers got that gig pretty well sewn up. Lucky anyone can self-publish on the internet. Oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's me. Me. Fetchwar, can you see the stuff we just initiated you into the guild of people who can see? Do you see how PSYOPs work? If so, you're starting to understand. Read on. Quote, we are absolutely at war with an enemy who seeks to subjugate you and your family for the foreseeable future. End quote. Preface, this book doesn't direct action. Quote, module 4-4. Quote, if you don't act, what do you think will happen? End quote. Module 4-5, quote, how some people are recruited, end quote, is the longest continuous text since the preface. Hashtags, find susceptible users buttons, contact, recruit, mine for referrals, pros automate at scale. Quotation from Lunga's The Internet and Psychological Operations. Module 4-6, do your research, not quite as sheeple as you were before reading this far. Joe Rogan quotation and homework. Fetchwar Chapter 5, more about hybrid warfare. Quotation from Lee on Chinese influence operations, bots, selective information, and contrived news. Oh my, lawfare. The law of a nation turned against its own, stop it. Lawfare. Quote, the law of a nation turned against its own officials in the form of what's commonly referred to as kangaroo courts to silence the opposition, end quote. And, quote, political warfare, quote, it's what they do. Do 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 do. Confession: I've stopped doing the homework in favor of doing your well, that's acceptable. That is totally acceptable. I mean, really. Give me 3 steps. Give me 3 steps, miss. I should come up with another song. It's going to be not a Frankenstein Matryoshka thread, but a trail of parts may be fit to be sewn to such by some. And this is me. This would be me. I will be doing this. Wrong definition. Humans put minnows everywhere. There's minnows everywhere. Minnows upon minnows upon minnows. It's a minnowpalooza. Is anything happening in the news? Just so that I'm not. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Why did that do that? What? 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 Where to go? 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 Where? Oh, I did it wrong. I did it wrong. I did it wrong. Operator error. Operator error. Sorry, everybody. Fetch is happening. It's called Fetch, Sam. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, fetch is happening. Give me 3 steps. Right. 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 It's time for Fetchwar Chapter 6. More about unrestricted warfare. Headed by an inspirational quotation from Palestinian Liberation Armies. What? No. What's the... That's network denial by them. Yeah. From PLA, Colonel's best-selling book, Unrestricted Warfare, China's Master Plan to Destroy America. The quotation is, quote, warfare beyond bounds, with each word capitalized. Whoa. Oh no, the calamine factory? What? Oh, people. Sorry. From the People's Colonel's best. I got it now. People's Liberation. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I'm not very smart. And I'm not even actually that high. I think I should probably get a little higher. It's the Chinese Communist Party, whose global strategy is unrestricted warfare and the 3 warfares doctrine. I think the General Sergeant asserts that the 3 warfares of doctrine are psychological warfare, legal warfare, and media warfare, but looks like the People's Liberation Army already sowed confusion in the principal text. But legal and media warfare synergize to entice and justify international law, the horror, which then become large repetitive media campaigns to saturate their appearance of legitimacy. That last part is in quotes. Parenthetically, don't think the United Nations has quite been explicitly named yet. Named enemy NGOs have mostly had world at the beginning, end parentheses. We do need coffee and weed. I don't have any coffee. I do have a Diet Coke. Exoticizing, probably xenophobic quotation about doctrine that sheds no light from Sydney Morning Herald editor. Now it turns out unrestricted warfare has 3 elements. They are network, law, and economics. Each, once prepared, wait for it, quote, will be ongoing so long as they are permitted by fraudulent elections that allow the emplacement of uniparty members who support a globalist agenda that leads to the end of nation states, the eradication of individual civil rights, and the death to the rule of law. End quote. Wow. Which Reads like a long list of debatable contingencies, assuming they can be made meaningful, except we all know who know exactly who this vague and contingent language describes. Remember the 2022 CSIS report about how attacks on pipelines suggest Russian signaling of future infrastructure attacks? We told you about lawfare for fraudulent elections, but also to establish international norms and use them to advantage, which everyone knows causes war. Everyone also knows they are using methods to do things uneconomical to good economical Italy. This chapter ends with a long quotation about how hard it is to quantify the economic cost of COVID, but offering some numbers from the well-known and highly respected Statista Research Department. Oh, I can only imagine. It's all the information without the disinformation. That's what I love about it, darling. That's what I love about this thread, this mega thread. Before I went to Fetchwar school, the way was the way, the stream was the stream, the mountain was the mountain. While in Fetchwar indoctrination, I came to see that the way is not the way. The stream is not the stream, the mountain is not the mountain. But now that I've grasped the Fetchwar core, I am content. The way is the way, the stream is the stream, the mountain is the mountain. This is such a better way to absorb Mike Flynn. Kind of want to make a flowchart out of this. I think so. We'll be ongoing. Yeah, I think you should. I guess that was all the way in April. Me. I'm unsure how seriously to take it. Ted. And trying to make it both accessible, Fetchwar, and inaccessible, available to those concerned about the book without boosting its presumed. Yeah, I think you did. I don't think it copy and pasted quite. It just filled with quotations to bring closer to the. Yeah, you didn't. It is so disconnected. It was really hard to read. I'm going to be real with you. Okay. We continue. We've got a rhythm now. All right. Though eager to get through this read and very real and living wage receiving a profitable brick and mortar book emporium are tired of stepping over me in the aisle, but Fetchwar gotta wait tonight. It's damnation drive-in time. Oh. It's also oh no, that I don't think that was a Friday. In my preemptive is probably very high. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll give you a pass, Ted. We know how you can be. Quote, shadowy government destabilization strategies, end quote, is the topic, or at least the title of Fetchwar Chapter 7, which starts out quoting a World Economic Forum appeal for, quote, global stakeholders to cooperate, end quote, in managing consequences of COVID. Quote, the Great Reset Initiative. Hey, have we heard of the World Economic Forum before? Maybe an ominous reference to the Great Reset rings a bell. Parenthetically, reader, I did not show you the graphic some chapters ago depicting all the NGO teeth in the CCP's gaping mouth, more prejudicial than probative. Module 7-1, pretty thick with the jargon for shadow governments with state and non-state parties to, quote, engulf us all into the gray zone funnel in this, end quote, the fetch most of wars. Quote, they must use the uniparty to remove everything that supports national identity and the right to self-defense. Wow, end quote. Quote, this is a red line that nobody can be allowed to cross, end quote. Is it a point of no return from beyond which there can be no return? Is it a, oh God, sine qua non, I know I'm not saying that right, sine qua non, without which it just isn't the same? Hey, your way of life will never recover if the psyops we've been teaching you are first used by them to force you to a new normal, which I'm beginning to understand is offered as a meaningful thing and B, bad. Is A, offered as meaningful thing and B, bad. Quote, the COVID pandemic was a psi act, end quote. Definition, permitted natural occurrence. Think every usage to present has been as engineered event, and indeed here. Quote, who started it? quote, who are all the entities supporting the changes? This one paragraph might be the single most potent concentration of propagandizing in the pamphlet so far. It makes that claim. It asks a 3-word question, accepting the premise of which, and immediately another question or rhetorical answer with its own not yet established premises. Are you going to answer it? Accept it as an answer? Grapple with the premises? No. Quote, there will be more until the good people, end quote, good people do civically engaged populisty stuff. I think you probably were like, don't promote the book. And I'm like, if you think anybody can understand, like the maggots are not going to read Oomp's thread. Not that it's not good, Oomph, it's that they don't understand it. Wonder which of the changes the entities I suspect were supposed to suspect of causing, or at least taking advantage of the COVID Psy Act, are proposing and supporting. Is it a red line change? Is a red line a line? Is a red line red? Well, these 7 things are it. Parental rights, border security, election integrity. Oh, you made amends. It's all right. That's not what, don't worry. We're all friends here. Oh my gosh. Medical freedom, religious freedom, the Bill of Rights, defund uniparty members. It's fine. And vote them out fairly. I think I recall wondering what the fuck I and other freedom-loving nations around the world like myself care about or depend on the Bill of Rights when this list came up in Chapter 2. Quote, the red line list and the support of the items is how you can save your country and your family's way of life, end quote. Oh, well, list accomplished. Good job, General Sergeant. Think I can copy that list and prop it up here like so, and voila, hooah, or something. Way of life saved. I can't do the Marine thing. Sorry. I mean, I'm just not a Marine. I feel like it would not be fair if I tried to do it. I don't know. And I just don't know how to do it. Call Tina. Oh my God, Ted, stop. Did warfare generations 1 through 4 all have a bunch of red lines that meant something else? Because here in Fetchwar, they keep implying that there are other kinds when they repeatedly state that this red line is the red line, none shall pass. Really pithy quotation from War College book guy Fleming, who writes with some flair, dig. Quote, U.S. planning cannot cut the nonlinear foot to fit the linear shoe, end quote. Long book title ends with sonorous, quote, and the advent of unrestricted operational art. As an aside, haven't noted in some time header, even here in Chapter 7, still reads Session 1. Beginning to worry a sequel might be planned, which shake my head, as they hardly seem to have enough of this volume. Shaking my head. Iran won the Iran-Iraq war by waiting for us to liberate Iraq and supporting militias and funding political figures. Here, militia insurgency distraction is a distraction from political warfare. The strategy in the U.S., quote, is to cause distractions. I really wanted to read that to you, but a phonograph burst in while waiting for a food dropper and updating my Nile wish list and scanning 2 live streams at 175. I print agitprop to wind itself, slap on a platter, drag its stylus across the grooves and split. Craziest thing. Quote, to cause distractions with media propaganda and the propagation of racial and manufactured discriminatory strife to create a scapegoat, end quote. Sorry, quote, propaganda and propagation, quote, has a nice flow with racial and scapegoat right behind. The uniparty scapegoat is, quote, labeled as a racist, bigoted entity, quote, end quote, unfairly, to distract us from unnoticed, quote, political warfare, just like with the Jews. You see, besides a nationalist hatred of their heritage, General Flynn Sergeant, the Nazi Party had political reasons too. Here's how to use brown shirts. Not really. We don't know. But here's a semi-ahistorical summary about their usefulness while political war happened unnoticed. Getting pretty weird up around Module 7-6. Probably shouldn't have taken all that acid. Quote, the uniparty is the action arm of political warfare conducted by state and non-state actors who are working to facilitate a new normal. The action arm of what? Don't fail to see, quote, government-sanctioned election interference, end quote, as political warfare against you. Learn about uniparty factions and the surreptitiously supported paramilitary organizations doing the distraction. Organize. Homework questions seem to have become unlinked from chapter contents. Remember the action arm of the political warfare? Here's a diagram of a uniparty Republican and a uniparty Democrat launching globalist agenda as mortars that spawn little blasts labeled SciAct. When they strike the embankment, I crouch beyond. Beep, bleep. I think I have found, without hardly even trying, a handful of better resources full of citations themselves about the generations of warfare. And oh, thank you. And the about the and cautious, clear discussion of those features distinguishing the present one. It's poetry. Do. Had an opportunity to pay some attention to development of planned smart city and some similar projects contemplated underway by among developers and competitors. Lots of cool stuff. Almost exactly what tech bros would build their panopticon out of while blithely aspiring to utopia. Well, he doesn't want us to have. Oops, wait, is there more? I'm so sorry. Oh, and again, now reading about Fetchwar. Should reread. Oh. Oh. I know. What's the relation? I don't know. There's so many questions I have. Oops. Oh, shoot. I didn't copy that right. Hold on. So many questions about this. Okay. A reliability network. That's the title of Chapter 8 of Fetchwar. Quote, is a sustainable system for living which prevents basic living necessities from being leveraged against the population to manipulate conditions of the environment and control the people of a nation. There are benefits of a sustainable reliability network. Wait a minute. If a reliability network is a sustainable system for living, is a sustainable reliability network a sustainable system for living? There will be more disruptions, so get started boldly taking the reliability network path. Maybe ask the leftists in your neighborhood about mutual aid groups and resources, because no one ever said reliability network before. Garden. More people are gardening now, according to garden sources, and people are more interested in local meat, according to meat sources. Sources did not offer any point of comparison, so the more is pretty useless. But people garden. You should too, because otherwise communism. And what's worse? Chinese communism. Grow your own bok choy for victory. Seriously, when society breaks down like that proportion of your government hopes to cause, you'll need people who know and can do things, so start recruiting local skilled persons and professionals now. Hey, there were no fluffy right justified block quotations in this chapter, not counting module 8-2, itself mostly quotations. Chapter 9, though, starts with a quotation from John Steinbeck, who, it says here, is the author of The Moon is Down. The first module, A Time for Mental Toughness, offers a definition of mental and one of toughness. Item C of mental, quote, of relating to or being intellectual as contrasted with overt physical activity, made quick mental calculations. In Fetchwar times, we must fearlessly, quote, manage our own psychological susceptibilities that make us vulnerable to unseen manipulation, end quote, for proper utilization of mental toughness. What does this mean? Notice the loaded language, selective reporting, and moderate your emotional response. Do your research, sheeple, or talk to, quote, trusted people who are sensible, end quote. Quote, public libraries are great historical information resources because they existed before the internet, end quote. Huh? Module 9-4 is 2 paragraphs from Glasser's 1941 work on critical thinking, apparently from the beginning of the source text. Or at least I think it is, though non-standard use of quotation marks across paragraphs. This module is unobjectionable, even salutary, but then immediately. Critical thinking is a concept with a 2,500-year evolution. This is a quote. Critical thinking is a concept with a 2,500-year evolution that began in the mid to late 20th century, and it's the way we dull the effects of polarized societal thinking that kicks off the path to destruction, end quote. What? The 2,500-year-long evolution of the concept of critical thinking started in the 20th century should bear fruit in just check swash. 2,450 or so more years. Hang on. That can't be right. I think there's a whole thesis on the Hellenic origin of rationality, clumsily asserted by implication in that evolution line. Also, fine if Glasser's study made critical thinking a concept for you, General Sergeant, but Glasser describes some attitudes, some aptitudes in a class of activities, not a concept. Don't even know what to do with that second half of that sentence. Dull the effects, polarize societal thinking. First appearance of this thought-stopping phrase. And that kicks off the path to destruction. LOL and what the fuck. There is a substantial quotation from Paul and Elder's mini guide to critical thinking concepts and tools, which any serious critical thinker should have on the shelf between the critical thinking for dummies and the Clausewitz for dummies. Don't just meet in the physical domain, which is what we fetch warriors call face-to-face encounters in corporeal reality. Dominate it by, well, doing it more. Here are some of the things they do. Take away to the freedoms. 1, 2, 3, SIAC, PSYOP, Fetchwar. We're almost there. Oh my God, this is really good. Again, thank you for doing this. Thank you for organizing this for me and doing all that. Hey, all that PSYOP you can see going on around you as you near completion of your first read of Fetchwar, it is all Fetchwar, just like we've been telling you, and it is absolutely real. This module reminds me that this, quote, this is your instruction manual for how to recognize manipulation, end quote, and tells me I'll be spotting the tells and evangelizing the cognitive insurgent gospel so that we can all fight back immediately before the final module. That was all in quotes, most of it. Which reminds us we're being pushed toward borderless nations with defenseless populations by Venn-shade party members you can spot by their NWO spawning PSYOPs, their restrictive legislation, and their excessive spending. Nothing, quote, nothing other than maintaining clean voter rolls, ceasing mail-in ballots and drop boxes, regulating the limited and effective use of absentee ballots, and eliminating anything other than paper ballots dispensed to legal voters who can provide a legal photo identification is acceptable, end quote. Is the single most polished and coherent sequence of words, not counting the drop quotes, in the entire pamphlet. Also, we've heard this with such granularity. Oh, vote them out, and fair, fraud-free elections has been said a few times broadly. Anyway, that's about it. Teach kids Fetchwar, or the Venn-shade party apparatchiks will brainwash them to think you're the villain. Marcus Aurelius, though, gets 3 titles: Roman Emperor, Stoic Philosopher, and Author of Meditations in the book's final quotation. Hold on. We're not done yet. We're not done. I think I screwed that up. No, I didn't. Nope, I did. Okay, there is a Fetchwar appendix, Machiavelli, but Alinsky, but Machiavelli. Alinsky as I tell you, and Machiavelli as it is. Machiavelli and Alinsky, ruthless, reified. Transcendent lessons for everyone, yes, and a veritable anarchist cookbook, and war is hell. But here is, quote, ugliness of left-wing power politics, end quote, failing cities, broken families, quote, rhino comrades. It ain't the Dems, some of whom aren't the devil, or the Repubs, some of whom probably are, but the leftist, globally minded leaders that are the true adversaries. Quote, isn't it time that we go on the offensive? End quote. Quote, our Constitution is under attack as well as the great nation at birth, and we stand to lose everything if we don't understand how to counter the onslaught we face from the leftists, end quote. Quote, ours is a principled and structured opposition, and if we decide to mass ourselves together as a singular America First movement, this must be our governing philosophy, end quote. But don't tell us what to do, right? All the way to the end before he infers the big line. Alas, none can tell quite what is the referent of that this. True. This must be our governing philosophy. But it might be, quote, together we have an American identity that's been forged from the pain, hard work, and intellect of our ancestors that must remain intact for us all to survive, end quote. Oh, here's Adamo again, his 10 rules for defeating radicals, each with commentary, just like the I Ching. Adele says only apologize as to fault. Fetchwar says be unapologetic when addressing leftists. This is sort of a tag team. This is what the left does, vehicle for more. Don't fall for the broad brush characterizations of all those leftists in bad faith are always do, as all those leftists in bad faith are always doing, in case you weren't sure who's who yet. Here is the first reference to Sun Tzu, sort of. I mean, the general sergeant wrote the name and alluded to a dictum, but only as leaping off point for Rhino v. America First stuff. Quote, much like psychopaths, leftists will never allow themselves to be engaged in a debate where facts and truth prevail, end quote. Quote, the ultimate goal is to see to it that the entire country is rescued from existing leftist ideological cesspools and to be set free from the shackles that bind their hold on various communities, end quote. Parenthetically, freedom-loving nation around the world told in preface, this book is for it. Reading the foregoing makes it cry. The shackles that bind their hold on and to be set free from the shackles that bind their hold on various communities. Real problem with the passive voice has been being had throughout the breadth of this tedious sequencing of unconsidered words by these guys who also love, quote, seminal. They write it so often, all things seminal all the time. Can't get enough of that seminal stuff. You go, General Fetch. Oops. Flynn, quote, Flynn also wrote a national selling book about Obama's negligence, end quote, is a clause that appears in the biography with commentary. The commentary comprises the now standard Trumpist grievances and lies. The sergeant did psyops, later released Note Verb, 2 books, had talk radio show, may sincerely try to do good work for vets, though seeing the company he keeps, and I think we know Code for Vets is not good. Clausewitz made it onto the resources list. There's a QR code that takes, quote, that takes you to a link that is continually updated with up-to-date perspectives on, quote, end quote, on Fetchwar stuff and how today's news proves it, offered by the authors at no cost, of course. I would put sushi ginger in the fridge because I like my ginger cold. That's mine. I'd advise the interested prospective reader to read the appendix and bios with commentary section first, as representing most of the substance and clearly having been thought about and written more carefully than the rest. This ends our reading of the almost unreadable. There may be some rumination. Probably it is just about Matryoshka Frankenstein time. Hip surgery. Who had hip surgery? Who had hip surgery? Oh my God, Siegfried. Plus my neighbor needed a joint. I need a joint. Okay, hold on. Wait, we have 2 more and I want to commentary. I just wanted the rest of the cheerocracy. That's funny. Oh, you did it. I don't even think I shared the document with you. I think you ended up getting it somewhere else. Only book I can think of that A, really is a book, and B, has no page numbers is a Bukowski collection. Remember how the header showed session 1 all the way through the whole book? And then I can see the psyops as I complete my first reading. Bet it would say session 2 if I read it again. Or maybe only if I do. The QR code will update the session. Not sure what verb or verbs appropriately describe the aggregate of actions undertaken with respect to a QR code. Passive voice almost certainly is. Oh my God. Oh, thank you so fucking much. Oh my God. Thank you so much. I know you're probably like gone and working, but I just want to thank you for that. Oh shit. Thank you for reading that book. Thank you for writing all that stuff. Now I want sushi too. Oh my gosh, thank you. That was really great. That was fun. I hope you do that for more things. I want to do that again. Thanks you guys for coming this morning. I jumped in a little early, so I'm going to take off. And then I will see you tonight for some trivia. We're going to trivia it up. Let's play some trivia tonight. And then I've got some other games for Sunday night. So join me Sunday night too for Late Night with Lolo. But if you can, stop by tonight for the lounge, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. Oh, I'm so glad. It was an ordeal. I know it was very much an ordeal for I I recall you you reading it. Oh man. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Yes. Absolutely. The entire bureaucracy. Yeah. No, but thank you for doing that, taking all that intellectual energy to fucking read all that shit. So I will see you guys tonight for some trivia. Let's have some fucking fun. I'm gonna get high as fuck right now. I hope you two do. Oh God, volume 2 is coming out soon. Well, get ready, oomph. You're gonna be called on again. You're gonna have to read more radicalization so we don't have to. So thank you, Oomph Calvorest, for doing that. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I hope I see you tonight. I really do. Yes, I am going to take that nap so that I will be on tonight. I promise, promise, promise. Thank you, Siegfried. All right. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy your day. Bye.